Felicia Day, and you are listening to Nerds Without Pants.
Hello and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 22, a podcast dedicated to video games, movies, comic books, and our love of Jason Statham. I am Julian, and I'm joined by a very special guest this week, Angelo.
I'm special, huh?
Yes, well, we lost a New York Italian on the podcast, so you're our fill-in New York Italian on the podcast.
The other New York Italian.
Yes.
Hello.
And it's also your first time podcasting on Nerds Without Pants, and really with us in general. I think this is you and Patrick's first time on the mic together.
Yeah, I've never worked with Patrick before. I worked with you on Backloggers a couple of times.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And,
I actually thought it was Rob for a second, so.
and that lovely voice is our very own Patrick, who always joins me every episode. And Patrick, I gotta say, you're no longer the most attractive redhead to be on Nerds Without Pants.
What? What's going on, bro?
Thanks to that wonderful intro from the lovely, the talented Felicia Day.
Who did that anyway?
Yeah, which, as you listeners probably figured out, Patrick was nice enough to get that little audio clip for us. It was something that I asked him to do, kind of in jest, but he actually manned up and did it, and I love him a long time for that.
Oh man, I take things to heart too, and that was my moment of C2E2 when I met her. I had to wait for a while in the autograph line, and I got it on Sunday. I was almost not going to get it because she was done at 1 o'clock, and I thought that was it. And it said she was going to stop at 2, but turned out she just had to do a photo shoot for 15 minutes, and then she came back. And so yeah, I got in line, and I was oh, I didn't think I was going to get it. And then I got up, and I had to play my cool card, and I said I wanted to get an autograph, but when I got up there, I was like, "Hey Felicia, do you remember on Friday when I was taking a photo with you and you were caught off guard, and I asked if you would do a little bit for me?" And she's like, "Kinda." So I'm like, "Can you just say hi, blah blah blah? It's Patrick's podcast, Nerds Without Pants." And I sort of cut her off because I got too excited, but she said a little bit more after that. And then we were both we got the good part in. And she's like, "All right, well, thanks." And I'm like, "Wait a second, one more thing." And then I went and got something out of my book bag. I'm like, "Can I have a pen?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, I just figured since you get so many autographs, I might as well give you mine."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you and I are both big Felicia Day fans, and I mean, I've said it before, but I really do feel, and I'm not a person who gets starstruck, because most celebrities I just don't care, but I really do feel it. If I had been in your position, I just would have froze. I couldn't have said anything. I couldn't have asked her. I just would have been sign.
Yes, yeah, I sort of feel that way, but I went through a whole Q&A session, listening to her. She was great, way better than I thought a Q&A could be. And in both Q&A sessions that I saw this weekend, they were amazing. But, she was in one, and then the Game of Thrones people were in another. Just two of them. But anyway, not about them. It's about her. But after getting to know her and stuff like that, and on the guild, she just seems like, the girl next door, the girl you play games with, is just I don't know. How can you really feel like that after all that? I don't know.
I was going to say, she seems like the kind of person who wouldn't really let you get nervous around her. She'd just be cool.
Yeah, or she would be nervous for you.
Maybe.
Yeah, cause I feel that even though she's been doing this for a long time, she's still kind of a geek at heart, so she still probably can identify with that kind of nervousness. And I mean, she's around so many awkward people all the time. I'm sure, Patrick's exchange with her was probably one of the most sane things that she experienced that weekend. But yeah, and I gotta say, and I don't know, I've been agonizing over this since you showed it to me yesterday, Patrick, but she seems a little weirded out to me when she says the name Nerds Without Pants, and now I'm super self-conscious about the title of the podcast, because I feel like maybe we're alienating possible, female listeners, because they think it's like some sort of weird, like, creepy dudes talking about, like, nerdy sex stuff, and...
See, I didn't get that from her tone of voice at all, though. I thought it was more like, she was like, I can't believe I'm really doing this. Is this really going for what you said it's going for? Can I trust you?
I'll take that to heart, because it was less the tone of her voice and more the look on her face, and I was like, I hope, oh man, I kind of feel a little bad, but,
she goes like, Nerds Without Pants. Like, really?
Yeah, but really that's the name of your show, you morons. But no, I kid. I mean, and I'm gonna tweet this to her when we get the finished product out. So Felicia, if you are listening, thank you a million times for giving us a quick shout out. We'll probably throw that on multiple episodes of the show because it's just way too cool.
Yeah, seriously, thanks for coming out on the show, and you should definitely come back sometime.
Yeah, that's very cool. I just realized I'm possibly breaking a rule here. I have to run this by you guys. Dorm pants. Pants, yes or no?
Not traditional pants, so I'll allow it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but I mean, I got shorts on right now. Everybody knows that's a joke, hopefully, by this point.
Yeah.
We all wear shorts.
Yeah.
Okay. Not that we're naked.
Although Rob sometimes was.
Yes.
But before we move on to Consumption Junction, just kind of give us an overview. Like, how was C2E2? I know you posted some pictures on Facebook, and I'm hoping I can twist your arm to let us use one of those for the show picture. But you cosplayed.
Yeah, it was my first cosplay. I mean, I've done a lot of costumes and stuff. I always try to go all out for Halloween and like make something funny. But I had a good costume, and I was really surprised with how many pictures I got. Like, literally, I got more pictures taken of me that weekend than every other day combined in my life.
And to tell the listeners what you were.
I was Link, of course.
Adult Link with the very tight white
adult
pantaloons.
Link?
Yeah, they were ladies' pantaloons too, so I technically was cross.
Sounds very adult Link.
Yeah, they were from Navi, who I cosplayed with. She was awesome. She was probably the reason why I got most of the pictures taken of me.
And did I see right? Did she then cosplay as Pyramid Head on another day?
Yeah, she did. So
That's
I got
amazing.
a shout out to my friend Agatha, and she made that all like on a college kid's budget. Like, it looks great, and you guys should definitely check her out because she's like gonna be famous someday. I think she's so good at making costumes.
Sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've got big respect for cosplayers. I like to dress up too, but I haven't really had a chance to do the cosplay thing, mainly because I've never actually been to a convention, and I would like to go one day. But yeah, I mean, how was it? Like,
it's like one of the best ways to make a ton of nerd friends. And I mean, like after like the first 10 minutes or so of like the shock of everyone taking pictures of you, you sort of get used to it and like start talking to everybody and, you know, exchange numbers or Facebook each other. And they just start hanging around you because they're not dressed up or something, or even if they are dressed up, they just start hanging around you so that everyone can take pictures all at once or something. Like by the end of the whole show, like everybody, or by the end of Saturday night, everybody, all the like superheroes and all the cosplayers were like just outside the venue, and none of us really wanted to go home. So like it turns out like that this one blog, and I forget who it is, just like wanted to get like an introduction like for C2E2, and like he took all of us together, and like there was probably there's probably like 100 people. I was going to say like 20 people. No, there's like 100. And all of a sudden there were these two guys, and one of them pops up from the middle of everybody, like scrunched together. He's like, "Hi guys, this is blah blah blah, blah and you're at," and everyone yells out C2E2. So like we were all like really happy to be together and just like hang out and pretend to like fight each other or something like that, or play games. And that was just, you know, after or in between all of the panels and everything that I went to and all the people who I saw and got their autographs, and just the whole thing was overwhelming.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, like, did you pick up any like really cool bits of memorabilia or anything, or did you just kind of
swag? So like, I didn't buy too much when I was there, because
you did it right.
The one big thing I bought cost me enough. So one thing I did get though was like this signed J. Michael Straczynski and Ben Templesmith issue of 10 grand that was convention exclusive and limited to 500. You guys know him?
I know Straczynski. I'm not familiar with the book.
Ben Templesmith did 30 Days a Night.
Oh, okay.
He's like the artist. Yeah, he's got a very distinct style. And yeah, J. Michael's like one of my heroes, one of the first guys that I got into comics with. And so like I was like, what, you're signing? I have to bring everything I ever had to you. I like waited in line for him like an hour and a half the first time, and I was like seventh person overall. So, but like I didn't really know he was signing that day, so all I had was my Night Owl before Watchmen just in case. I had that and like a couple other things. But then the next day I went back with my issue of Strange #1. I went back with the Moloch stuff that he did. And he signed all of those too.
Oh, wow, really?
My Rising Star Compendium. Yeah, the second day it's a 5-person limit, but then I just got back in line.
Well, I'm just surprised to hear that because I figured like he's such a big name that I figured it would just been like one thing, you know,
yeah,
and then move on.
Actually, the only person who was like that was Humberto Ramos, and you wouldn't think he would be like that, but like he said one thing was for free and then the next thing was $5.
Yeah,
but
that's kind of what I've come to expect. That would have been cool, though.
He's the only person who did that. All the other comics were like free to be signed. Like Ethan Von Sciver, Len Wayne only did $1 per comic. John Layman, I got all my Batman stuff signed by him, and Peter Tomasi, and even Chris Higgins was there. I got him from Batman and Robin, and Chris Burnham was there. Or Kyle Higgins was there. Chris Burnham was there for Batman Incorporated. He's the artist. I didn't get those signed though because the last day he had too much to do. He was really popular. And even the guy who did Superior Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, Eric Stegman, he was free. And I talked with him for like 20 minutes because he was like young and awesome and like wanted to do stuff like afterwards. And he's like, where the girls at? You know? And like I talked with Riley Brown for a while, just like littler people sometimes too. And I got like lots of business cards. People work with me in the future because they're like, you could dress like that. No. But I don't know. I just talked with them for a while. Oh, I saw someone from the Sandman Chronicles, Jill Thompson. She did like the whole book 7 and like a story in book 6 of Fables and Reflections. So I got her to sign those 2 and she was free. I finally got to meet the guy who knows the person I work with, Jim McCann. He signed everything and like talked to me about how to get in the industry. Like ridiculous. All that. Let's see. What else? I don't know. They were all signed. Like I got Straczynski to sign Amazing Spider-Man 529 when he finally had when he gets the Iron Man Spider-Man suit, if you know what I mean. Like,
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, Tony Stark makes that new suit, so that was awesome. Mark Waid was supposed to be there, but I never saw him. And then Brian Wood was there too, but I didn't get anything signed by him because I was like too excited about the other people. So I got like all my Death in the Family stuff signed because all the different people who wrote that or like were artists on that were there and they were all free.
Now be that dick that flips them on eBay. The next
way.
Day.
Wait till they're dead.
Well, cool. It sounds like you had a great time. Like, you're definitely texting me a lot over the weekend. It sounded like you were having a blast. And
yeah,
of course, like, when you sent me that picture of Felicia, I was just so jealous.
Yeah. I got my picture, my video, got an autograph from her. She was like the only person I spent money on to get something like that. Everybody else, I was like, you can take a picture with me. I go, fuck yourself.
Nice.
But I got a picture with J. Michael Straczynski, which is like the guy I wanted to take a picture with. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and he probably doesn't get a lot of like photo ops, so.
Yeah, while it was in line, it was like the only reason it happened is because the guy I was next to, who was like working on Disney Infinity and worked on like some like other games like SpongeBob or My Little Pony or not My Little Pony, but like stuff like that. Oh, I shouldn't say that to all the bronies out there. Sorry.
Yeah, you don't want to piss off bronies. That's a whole kettle of fish I don't want to deal with.
Yeah, but he's working on a lot of children's titles, and he got on Disney Infinity, and he said it's going to be way better than Skylanders. And I don't think he was saying that just because he's working on it, because he knows that when he worked on the Conduit, it could have been better.
Well, I mean, Skylanders, it was basically like a proof of concept that showed that could work, and there's plenty of ways to improve on that. I'm still waiting for them to do something where you have actual action figures instead of just little statues that don't do anything. And I've said this before, if they do something with Transformers, I'm done.
Yeah, you really could do anything with those. I mean, it's just an RFID chip on the base of the statue, so you could make it whatever you want.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, dude, I gotta send you this video of this one kid who was Optimus Prime. You didn't even know he was Optimus Prime, or you didn't know he was a kid because he would start off as like the truck, and he would be like lying on the ground, and then he would get up and change into like, you know, Optimus Prime. It was awesome.
I've seen some pretty awesome transforming costumes, like for the Transformers.
Did he have the trailer?
Yeah, you don't need the trailer. He had a trailer.
What happened
Okay.
to the trailer? Did it just disappear, or?
Like he had the back of the truck. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I guess we'll kick it on over to Consumption Junction, minus the jingle because I haven't gotten it yet. But Angelo, since it's your first time on the show, what media have you been consuming?
Well, let me start by saying this. I now have a completely different appreciation for when my wife is sitting next to me and I'm talking about video games, because when you guys get going about comics, I am so lost. I can probably tell you my entire experience of comic books pretty briefly. It was the Maximum Carnage set from Spider-Man. I don't even know which Spider-Man it was. I just know it was the Maximum Carnage arc.
That was all of Spider-Man. That was like every comic book for like, I think 3 or 4 months. Yeah, it crossed over with everything.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a million different people in there that I don't even remember, like, that just appeared and then they were gone.
Yeah.
It was really crazy. Like, we just had it in one bound book that was insanely thick. What were some of the other ones? The Death of Superman arc, I remember reading that one, because you have to read that.
Oh, yeah.
Read it. I don't read Superman.
You haven't read it, Patrick?
No, I don't read Superman stuff.
Yeah, you need to rectify that, though. That's a pretty amazing story. Yeah, just get that Death of Superman trade and you'll be good.
All right.
And yeah, there was that, and oddly enough, Batman versus Predator.
Oh, okay. Some of those Dark Horse versus books were not bad.
This one was definitely unique. It was dark. I'll give it that.
So did you really like Carnage? Because I don't know if you know this, but he's going to make his appearance in Superior Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. No, I do like Carnage. He's crazy.
And they're calling him Superior Carnage.
No.
He's better.
You can't how do you improve? You can't. No. Wait, what?
Well, I mean, they had Toxic? Is Toxic better?
I don't know. Yeah, they've gone so off the rails with that stuff. But part of that is because comic creators don't want to create new comic book characters that they don't own, because now that there's the whole movie industry and everything, they're missing out on potential big bucks. So what you get is, these iterative characters in comic books. So you get crap like Anti-Venom and Toxin and Kid Gladiator and Red She-Hulk, and it just gets ridiculous, when you actually take a step back and look at it.
Yeah, so far in Superior, they haven't really brought anything new into it yet. They've actually only had 2 villains pretty much. Well, 4 villains if you count the 2 jesters in one issue, but it's been pretty long story arcs for each of them. So they haven't made it crazy or anything, but it looks like it's about to get crazy. Yeah. There was this really cool cosplay that I saw of Carnage that, Angelo, you should check out on my Facebook that I'm about to post. Or I might have posted it already. She's just crazy. She was dressed up all like Carnage. I don't know. Her big tongue was out, and it was like a foot-long tongue.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds nuts.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, so that's that. That's it for me in comics. I mean, it's not that I don't like them. It's just, you only have so much stuff you could get into. And yeah, so when you got going about that, I can only just imagine my poor wife when I'm talking about why I have to get a Shin Megami Tensei game because Atlas doesn't publish a whole lot of them. And she's just like, shut up already.
Right.
Just go get your stupid game.
Yeah, you probably don't want to add comics to the mix when you already have such an expensive hobby, when you have a family. Because I spent $90 at my comic book store last Friday because I hadn't been in a month. So.
Well, I used to really be into, I used to, gosh, if we want to go back far enough, I used to collect Magic cards. I have boxes and boxes of Magic cards. And I really did get into a lot of the artwork on them. Like, there's some really talented artists that drew stuff for Magic the Gathering, but that's a whole other thing. So,
Yeah.
As far as what I've actually been consuming, most of that we'll probably talk about later because it's all been 3DS stuff. I don't think I've actually bought a, like, big console game yet this year, not even BioShock. I'm waiting for that to come down in price because that's not going to be hard to get a hold of.
Right. Me too.
But as far as stuff I've been consuming, like I said, it's been the 3DS games, and I spent a lot of time trolling YouTube just for fun. Not trolling it, really. Just going around there. Yeah. Perusing. I peruse. And, I really enjoy, I wrote an article about it recently. I really just enjoy a lot of the stuff that gamers come up with on there. Some of them have really witty commentary that they, go off of alongside games that they're playing. There's some really talented musicians on there. Like I said, I just did that one on the French guy whose name I'm not even going to try it because I can't do accents or anything like that. But some of the stuff that he came up with was just really unique and just using instruments that I didn't think of to do with particular songs.
Is this the guy that you highlighted on Pixelbit?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's even some songs I didn't put up there, but I tweeted one earlier today, which was a cover he did of Snake Man's theme from Mega Man 3. And about 12 seconds in, he just puts this layer of funk on the whole thing. Like just this crazy wah pedal going on and everything else. And I'm like, who hears this? How do you listen to chiptunes and you hear like this crazy, ridiculous, like stuff in Snake Man? I don't hear it. And he did it, and it was perfect. Let's see, he did the same thing with another Mega Man one. It was, Crash Man from Mega Man 5?
Oh.
That's the train?
Wait. Well, Crash Man is Mega Man 2.
Or not, I mean Charge Man. Wrong scene.
Oh, okay.
Charge Man. Yeah, I butchered that. Charge Man is the train from Mega Man 5. And he covered it with an electric sitar.
Nice.
It sounds fantastic. I don't, again, how do you hear this and hear electric sitar? Somehow this guy did, and he pulled it off. So I'm kind of like really just pimping my article that I just wrote, but that's really what I've been consuming. That and whatever my kids are watching on Cartoon Network, which can be pretty amusing. Have you guys ever seen Gumball? Amazing World of Gumball?
I can't do it.
No?
No, I tried. I've had a huge split with recent cartoons that are popular. I don't get Adventure Time. I don't get regular show.
Adventure Time's great.
I'm with you on Adventure Time. I kind of do, but I don't get, I think everybody else is reading way more into it than it's worth. That's just my opinion. You know
what it is? And this is what I feel that it is that SpongeBob SquarePants was a show for kids that adults found very interesting and funny. Mm-hmm. And so what these guys did is they made a cartoon for adults, hitting that SpongeBob vibe that really I don't think is all that appropriate for kids, but it's packaged as a show for kids. Like there's stuff that I've seen on both regular show and Adventure Time that if I had a kid, I'd be like, don't really know if I need you, knowing that stuff.
I haven't seen anything. I mean, we don't really watch. The kids aren't really that into Adventure Time either, oddly enough. But they haven't even really. I haven't seen anything that's made me go, wow, really? But that's not to say it's not in there. I mean,
yeah.
That's been around for a while. I mean, even before you had SpongeBob, you had stuff like Invader Zim and Ren and Stimpy, and that was always 2 layers going on there too for the adults, I think.
Yeah, I never, even when I was watching Ren and Stimpy as a kid, I felt like I shouldn't be watching this.
Yeah, that always felt dirty.
Yeah. And actually, I got to the point where I couldn't watch it anymore. I think when they had the episode about the sentient fart, I was like, I'm done.
What? I didn't see that.
You never saw that one? It was the one where Stimpy lets loose a fart, and it has thoughts and feelings, and it can talk. And that was when I was done with that show.
Please tell me at some point somebody called it a methane elemental. That'd be fantastic.
No, I don't think it was that good of a show. And what did you say, Patrick?
Oh, I felt the same way, like that I was watching something inappropriate when I saw Kenny die for the first time.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you were, though.
No, I'm just kidding. South Park. Yeah, but Angelo, have you heard of World 1-2? It's like the new compilation album that's like all techno beats and stuff. I thought you might like it since you like remix stuff, but like there's a lot of different high quality artists like I'm gonna butcher their names, but Manami Matsuma.
Oh, dude, don't worry, I can't do it either. Like Umatsu is about as far as I go with that.
Well, anyway, like stuff from Spelunky, Super Mario World, Dear Esther, Tetris, Trolls,
Oh, nice.
Final Fantasy Tactics. It's all on one album. It's like gonna come out soon, and you could listen to the first 5 songs on the internet right now. Just search World 1-2. I think you'll like it.
Nice. I will have to do that.
Might have to take a look at that for the show music.
Yeah, maybe.
There's great scores out there, even if you appreciate them, like outside of their context. Like I've talked about Dust and Elysian Tale a lot. Hyperduck Soundworks did the score for that one. It's a couple of guys. Real good stuff. A lot of those little indie games, that's the whole thing. I mean, these are people's passions projects, so they can just they're not on maybe they're on a little bit of a time constraint, but I mean, they're not feeling the crunch. They're not pressured. You know, they can really just kind of put their love into it as they see fit. So it comes out, I think, the better for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that indie developers are also making smaller games where you need to have music that stands out for each place that you're going to. And that's the thing that I miss about how soundtracks used to be, like in the, I'd say pre 128-bit, days. Once we got into like full orchestrated stuff, like everything just it just sounded like these really big, bombastic movie scores, as opposed to music that actually had to, they didn't have much to work with, and so they had to make every area and every place that you went to sound distinct, but also something that could loop and not get repetitive and annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it had to do with the focus back then was on melody, and now it's a little more on ambiance.
Yeah.
So I will say this, though. I mean, best soundtrack this generation is still Nier. I don't know about the game, one way or the other, but that has the most distinct and entertaining soundtrack that I still pop in like all the time when I want to get inspired to write something. I spent a good amount of money on that thing too, because I had to import it from Japan. Or actually my wife did. She bought it for me. But, fantastic score. Just, yeah, I don't know. Not much more to say on that.
I've been getting like that same, like, this is repetitive, but I kind of like it vibe when I've been playing Phantasy Star IV recently. It's a Sega Genesis game, so it's going to repeat, but like you said, Julian, when you're in an RPG, sometimes you like to get in that groove. When you hear the same song over and over again, it's like you're grinding, but like it's a good kind of grind.
Yeah, and like I said, those songs become very important to certain locations. It's like I can tell you exactly what the town of Mysidia sounds like from Final Fantasy IV, but I couldn't for the life of me tell you, what it sounds like when you drop into Bowerstone in Fable. Because, I mean, it's a very nice song, but it's kind of, to me, it's the Fable music. Like, all the Fable music sounds the same. And I can't really, differentiate between any of the different areas. And I miss that. I really do miss that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great soundtrack to fall into, too. I'm not really a big, fan of the sound chip on the Sega Genesis, but there's a few games that really work it well. That's one of them.
Yeah.
Phantasy Star IV is tremendous. I think Thunder Force 3 is another one. It's a shoot 'em up, but my gosh, that
all the Thunder Force games, they were known for their music.
Yeah, and then Sonic the Hedgehog, stuff. I mean, a lot of the mainstream stuff is really good, but when you get to some of the mid-tier, that must have been a hard chip to work. So, because some of it, you either nail it or it comes out not sounding so good. Actually, if you listen to Phantasy Star 3, that's really hit or miss. There's some tracks that are pretty good, and there's some that are not.
Yeah, I actually thought some of the tracks in that, caused me to stop playing, and I didn't feel that way with Phantasy Star 2 that much, so it must have just been hit or miss, because, they were trying harder.
How are you playing these, if you don't mind me asking?
On Sonic's Ultimate Collection, which is I
found that the actual sound on the Sonic Ultimate Genesis Collection is a little bit more grating, if you can believe it,
They-
than
they've
it actually
had-
is on the Genesis.
They've had a lot of problems emulating the music from the Genesis. That's been the problem with almost every collection.
Yeah.
That's actually, I didn't have any complaints about the music in the Sega Vintage collections for Xbox Live Arcade. Because
they do a great job
I
with
own
those.
the Golden Axe one and the Streets of Rage one, and those sound really good.
Yeah.
But every other time that they've ported them, there's been something that's just a little bit off.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was another one. Goodness, what were the ones that I played on there? The Monster World ones. I really didn't care for the first game, the one that was actually the arcade port, but the second two had fantastic graphics, great music. The other two on that collection. I mean, I can't say enough praise about that game, especially considering we didn't get the latest one on that series here in the US. Everybody who likes action RPGs should go out and get that because it was ported very well. It's got a game that you can't play off a cartridge, so you kind of need to get it anyway if you like these sorts of things, and they're a lot of fun. So that's my plug. There we go.
And actually, your review is on the site, so they should check that out.
It's an old one too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how well that one was written because I wrote that a while ago.
Anything else, Angelo?
That's pretty much it. Not a whole lot. I mean, we've been mostly, like I've talked about before, we've been trying to sell our house, so I've been spending a lot of my spare time trying to get it fixed up. It looks good. We've got some people that are interested, so hopefully I'll be able to get back to playing some games soon.
Very cool. And we've been, well, I haven't had a chance to get back to it, but you and I have been going through System Shock 2 for a new episode of, a new series of Backloggers Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
So you can listen to us talk about that. Actually, the first episode, it'll probably be up by the time this goes up on Friday, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we will talk about the music on that one a little bit too, though not nearly as glowing.
Yeah. But, well, Patrick, I know C2E2 was like kind of the big thing for you, since our last recording, but, did you get up to any media stuff?
Yeah, not too much. I don't know. I was preparing my costume and getting stuff together and freaking out about that for most of it. But I mean, I told you I played some Phantasy Star and, just a couple other games that I've already talked about a little bit more. I'm trying to fucking figure out the cave and what I'm gonna say for it, and that took, I don't know, I might just not write it because I don't really know about puzzle games. I don't know how to put them into words and it's frustrating me.
Oh, that's fair enough. I think maybe that also speaks to your feelings of the game. You know, I think if you're not like passionate enough to like really like write it up either, you know, one way or the other, then I think that kind of says all you need to say, you know.
Yeah, I got like a few paragraphs in and then I'm like, but what's my point? You should play this, basically, but it's not going to be the best thing ever. You might forget about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so there's that.
Now, you've mentioned Phantasy Star IV just like in passing, but like, have you put a decent amount of hours into it by now?
Yeah, I'd say like 5 or so.
Okay.
In the past 2 weeks. So it's like sort of difficult to figure out what's going on in those dungeons. They give you like no like wherewithal where you're going. There's like no map that I've been looking at, and you just sort of have to find your way. So sometimes it does get really tough, but luckily in this version, like they let me save every single step or wherever I want to. So it's not that bad, but I sort of have to make my way through the caves multiple times just because I'll get like 3/4 of the way through the cave and I won't have enough, I forget what they're called, but like remedies or antidotes or, yeah, I forget what the other thing is that just cures them, but you can also use a technique, but you can only use like the technique to cure somebody like 5 times or 10 times before it's done, at least in the beginning, like when they don't have any more techniques left, and you can only do it in battle. So like if you're out of battle, you have to waste your money and you don't get that much money. So I don't know, you have to be really frugal, and it's not something I'm used to, but I got through the first three caves already, I think, in like 5 hours. Not that bad.
Yeah, the dungeons in Phantasy Star IV are not nearly as bad as they are in 2.
Yeah,
Holy crap. That is the most hardcore JRPG I have ever played in my life. I don't know how people played that game without a guide. I have no idea.
Yeah, I freaked out about that too, and I just gave up. I sort of talked about that one other time on this, but like I didn't even know like you were supposed to go back to your house and pick up like the next person in your party. It doesn't tell you that, and it took me like 10 hours to figure that out, and I'm like, if that's what I was supposed to do and it didn't tell me, this is going to happen over and over again, and I'm going to get so stuck. And then plus like just going to the first dungeon, I get killed on the way there, like even though I'm trying to level up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really grindy. It's really obtuse. They shipped it with a guide in the U.S. If you bought the cartridge for the Sega Genesis, it came with a full-on guide because they were just like, look, this game explains nothing. So just here's everything. Just play it. And I would almost recommend playing it that way because it's crazy. It's just really, really hardcore.
It's funny going back to RPGs that are that old because I think you get to appreciate what has been gained, but also mourn what has been lost. Because, you know, obviously, like, there's certain things that I don't want to have to deal with in a modern RPG, like, you know, the whole, I'm going to get, like, 4 experience points and 1 gold, you know, for every battle, you know, at the beginning, and then, like, the next weapon is, like, 500 gold. So, like, before you can even upgrade, it's gonna be a good hour or so before you get up to that point. Like, that I can do without. But, you know, Patrick talking about dungeons, like, that's something that I do miss from a lot of modern RPGs, where you tend to only have one path that you can go. Or in some cases, it's not even really what you would call a dungeon. It's just, this is where the game is taking you. You know, I mean, obviously there are throwbacks like Etrian Odyssey and stuff like that, but as far as, like, your big console RPGs, you don't really get that. Or at least not in a lot of the games that I've played this generation. And I do miss that.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit, too, on that episode of Backloggers that we lost, where we were talking about the new Thief game a little bit, and I had said, you know, I love the old Thief game, but it's so obtuse, I don't know if I could do it again. I think I can go back and play the original Thief because I have played that game so many times, and I love it so much that I can just pick it up and play it, whereas somebody who just came out and grabbed the controls would be like, what kind of a garbage map is this? It looks like somebody scrawled it on a napkin because that's literally what they did. You'd go to a source of somebody. He goes, look, I've been inside the house. Here's a rough drawing from my memory. This is all you got to go on. And literally the game gave you this guy's sketch and you had a compass, figure it out. You know, I couldn't do that again. I don't know if I want to go down all the way down to where I have like HUD indicators and, you know, checkpoints everywhere. Just, you know, connect the dots to solve whatever, but at the same point, I don't know if I could be that hardcore about solving a game. See, I don't have the time to. I
think there's a happy medium that can be reached, though, because I think it'd be cool if you start off with the scrawled, you know, napkin map, but then as you're actually exploring in real time, your character starts filling in his own version of the map. So you kind of get like, okay, here is like the really obscure kind of hazy part of the map that I haven't been to yet, but here's what I know because this is what I've seen. You know, and I think that would be a really nice way to kind of have the best of both worlds. I don't know. I think that developers these days, and I think it's more publishers than developers, don't give gamers enough credit. But at the same time, I also don't necessarily want, you know, the same ridiculously over the top difficult experiences that I had, you know, growing up.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I don't have nearly the amount of time I used to pour myself into a game like that. I mean, you look at Etrian Odyssey, and I think you just like you were saying, it's the perfect medium because it's that same kind of RPG on top, but it gives you the map on bottom, and it tracks your position on that map. So it's like, it's the experience with a little bit of a minor convenience.
Right.
So it works for me. But yeah, if you're talking about Phantasy Star 2, it's beyond that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's nothing for you to walk into a room in a dungeon, and you have to explore this entire room because you're zoomed in kind of close on your characters. Yeah. And you'll find 15 elevators on this one floor. And then they're linked up on another floor, and then up on another floor, and then up on another floor, and there's like 15 of these elevators that go, so you have to go up one floor, down another. To figure this whole thing out, it's the most ridiculous, obtuse maze I've ever seen in my life. It's... I can't.
No reason
as hardcore as I am about this kind of stuff, you really need a guide for this game. It's so difficult.
Yeah, but see, I feel is more of just that we've learned from level design since then. Because I do feel like as much as I love Final Fantasy XI, some of the areas are designed in that type of way, where it's like, why did you do this? There's a pair of jungles that if you play that game, you're very familiar with, Utunga and, I forget the other one. But, literally, like, I've been playing that game for years. I still can't find my way around there because there's all of these tunnels that go up and down. Like, it's the jungle down into these caves, but they're not necessarily interconnected. And the places that you need to get through the jungle it's almost a puzzle just to get to them in and of themselves. And even once you've traveled to the places you want to get to, it's still not very easy to get back to them. You still will often have to go ahead and hoof it. And every time that I have to go to that area, I just make a fart noise because I'm like, why did you people make it this way? But, cool. Well, I guess for me, media-wise, real quick, last night, I watched the final 2 Twilight movies with my best friends. To defend myself, like, we were curious, and so we started watching them, and then realized that they were awesomely bad, but we still kind of wanted to see how awesomely bad they could get. And we watched the third one together, and my best friend, Shanna got, like, pretty toasted. She got pretty drunk and made some really hilarious commentary. So, we wanted to do that again, and alcohol was involved because it's the only way we could make it through those movies. But I just want to say real quick, and I don't think there's a spoiler, and I really don't care because it's effing Twilight.
Yeah.
But Bella and Edward have a baby in the fourth, the next to last movie.
No way.
And, it's a CG baby. It's a computer generated baby.
Oh, man.
And I was like, okay, well, I guess I can kind of see because they needed the baby to do like this one particular facial expression. It's like, okay, I kind of get that. But the baby also ages rapidly, and so, like, after just like a couple months, she looks like she's 7. And so they get like a 7-year-old actress, and they CG her face. It's the most disconcerting thing I've ever seen in a movie.
That does sound horrifying.
It was completely horrifying. And the thing is that, Jacob, the werewolf guy, he imprints on her as an infant, which basically, like, that just goes into this real creepy pedophile territory.
That sounds horrible too.
But they do show like a flash forward to the future where he is with her, but they CG the same face onto the full grown woman. And it's like, I just yelled at the screen at one point. I was like, does nobody see anything wrong with this? It's so terrible.
I mean, that sounds horrible, but what's even worse is like when a vampire goes into the light, it turns into glitter.
Oh, and they pretty much dropped that. Like, they go out on their honeymoon to like Rio, and they're outdoors, and I'm like, shouldn't he be sparkling? Like, it's really sunny out there. They just completely threw that away, didn't they? But anyway, I had to comment on the CG baby, because holy crap.
I did see the first one because it was one of those things where, and I don't remember what the deal was, but there was a group of my friends that were like, okay, we'll do this with you if you go see this movie with us. So I went and saw the first one, and they hated me because I wouldn't shut up about how bad it was through the entire movie.
and Kristen Stewart, oh my god, she's just dreadful.
Yeah.
Like, what a bad, oh my goodness. So yeah, that was bad. What was less bad was, I played Clash of Demon Head on my NES. And kind of going back to what we were talking about a little earlier, I think it kind of fits. I feel, and I hadn't really played Clash of Demon Head very much before, like I'd only played it like just briefly. This is the first time I really sat down and played it. And I feel like it might have been one of the first open world games. Because the amount of freedom you have in that game is kind of amazing for the time period. Because when you fall into a pit, you don't die. You just fall into a cave that kind of takes you to a different area. And if you swim in the water and use like an aqualung, you find different areas that you can, that you couldn't get to before. You get to a dead end and you're like, oh, well, that was a waste of time. But then you realize that you can climb up the wall to a new area. And I was just kind of amazed. And again, it doesn't really tell you any of this stuff. You just kind of naturally figure out, oh, I can climb. This is kind of cool. So I really dug that. And also, localizations for the NES were notoriously bad. But, the Clash of Demon Head one, it seemed like those guys were having a pretty decent amount of fun with it. And they really tapped into that 80s anime vibe that the game is based around. And, it was really good. I think that, if you have a chance, you should try to seek that game out.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good stuff about that game. The people back at 1UP used to talk about it a lot. It's apparently a favorite of theirs.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got some problems, but I was kind of impressed with how forward thinking a lot of the stuff was.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a cool little game.
While you were talking, I thought of like some other types of media that I was like consuming. I was like, oh, I totally forgot about movies. I last night saw Looper for the first time. Like some of my friends who make movies really like that. I don't know if you guys saw it, but like the bigger point was, I saw Oblivion in IMAX. I don't think I talked about that on the last one. I think it was less than 2 weeks ago, that it came out, but like, that was a pretty awesomely devastated movie. Like you see every one of the, almost every one of the wonders of the world, like devastated and just like ravaged. And it's like, why? It's because this alien race came in or something like that. And it's like all a mystery, but like, it's pretty cool how it like pans out. No spoilers.
I'm sorry, is it more of a scary type movie or is it more of an action movie?
It's more of an action movie. It's like thriller. I was never scared.
Okay.
Not like when I saw Prometheus. I was a little scared there.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely want to check that one out. I have a good paycheck coming to me, pretty much for the first time this year. Like money's finally back to where it's supposed to be.
Ooh, yeah.
And, I'm gonna take myself on a movie date this weekend because I haven't seen a movie since this is 40. And I'm one of those guys who tends to go to the movies, at least once a week or sometimes multiple times in a week. So
yeah,
I'm jonesing.
It's not that bad. It's not a bad way to waste your money, especially in IMAX, but like that does cost more. It's just like all the shots that they make are totally made for it and it's beautiful in IMAX. I saw it on Navy Pier and I was like with a group of friends that I really liked, sitting next to a lovely woman. But,
was this lovely woman attached to somebody else?
No.
Oh, okay.
Actually, she was single. There was also another woman on my other side who was engaged, but
But that doesn't matter to Patrick Hijack. He's like, hey, how you doing?
Would you like to be my Navi?
Oh, you should see my Navi, Angelo.
I don't think she's your Navi though, Patrick.
No, well, she's my Navi. My friend. That's all I meant.
Hopefully she was less annoying than the real deal. Okay. But yeah, what the big thing for me, and actually this is the crux for this episode, last week, was it last week? I guess it was almost 2 weeks ago now. I bought me a 3DS XL. Folks.
Yay!
So
one of us.
This comes from a lot of different things. A part of it, and listeners have, I've said this a lot, is that I've been wanting something shiny and new for a long time, and I haven't had that feeling in quite some time. And then hearing Jesse Miller talk about his 3DS XL on, Push Start to Continue, and Fire Emblem also, him and a lot of other podcasts raving about Fire Emblem kind of got me thinking about it. And I actually am glad that I listened to Jesse's podcast because I probably would have just gotten a regular 3DS. But hearing him talk about the benefits of the 3DS XL, I went ahead and went with that. I'm really happy that I did. Also, I thought it was going to be this gargantuan thing that you couldn't, put in your pocket. But it's the same size as the original DS, and that's what I own. I have the big fatty DS. I carry that in my pocket all the time. So, because I wear slacks. So I can easily, take my 3DS with me on the go, and I have. But, it was a bunch of that stuff. And then that damn Nintendo Direct, where they were talking about all those really awesome 3DS games that were in the pipeline. And I tweeted this too, and I don't think people realized that I was serious, but I was just all caps said, okay, Nintendo, fine, I'll buy a 3DS. And I actually did that afternoon. I had tax refund money burning a hole in my pocket.
Nice.
And, so I picked up the 3DS XL, and I picked up Fire Emblem and Fiat Rhythm. But
good choices.
But Fiat Rhythm, well, here's the funny thing. Well, one, I already put 20 plus hours into the iOS version, and I kind of like the way it plays better on iOS, even though there's a lot of stuff missing from the iOS version. I just feel that it works with just multi-touch better than using a stylus. But it doesn't matter because I've only played it for 5 minutes because Fire Emblem has consumed my life. It's my new crack. To the point that it's actually interfering with sleep and other assignments. I've been reviewing some stuff, and I haven't been spending as much time on that, but more because I've had only an hour or so in the evening sometimes, and it's not long enough to chew into a big AAA console game, but it is long enough to get a couple battles done in Fire Emblem. So that's what I've been doing. And, I'm 15 hours into it and leveling up my characters and, they're just really badass. And the translation from 8-4 Studios is amazing.
That's so good.
It
really is.
I've laughed out loud. And I got to this point yesterday when we were waiting for dinner to get done, and I was just hanging out at my friend Joe and Shanna's house before we watched the movies. I got to this one character, he's a mage, and he shows up in a flock of ravens, and he goes, caw, caw, caw. Can I join your cause?
Oh.
And I just started busting out laughing, and I showed it to my friend Shanna. She just rolled her eyes at me. It was so good.
I love it.
So bad.
I love corny jokes, though.
And then he fired off three more rapid fire sounds. I love this character.
That's great.
I also picked up a couple games from the eShop. I picked up Punch Out, starring Mr. Dream, because I can't use Mike Tyson, for NES, and I picked up old school Tetris for Black and White Game Boy. And it was both awesome and frustrating, because I realize now that the eShop is probably going to have the same crappy virtual console support that the Wii did, where they just trickle out games very, very slowly. And that really makes me sad, because getting a chance to play the Black and White Game Boy games on this screen is amazing, because I only ever had the brick, Game Boy with the greenish tinge to the screen.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Game Boy Color. So I never actually got to experience Black and White Game Boy games in black and white. And Tetris, just looks amazing in straight up black and white. And I'm gonna probably pick up Gargoyle's Quest pretty soon, because that's one of my all-time favorite, original Game Boy games.
I'd say there's actually a lot of games on the eShop that are awesome. I mean, there's Pushmo and that kind of stuff, but there's also some of the bigger games I don't know, New Super Mario Brothers 2. There's even another version of Tetris that's way better than that one.
Nothing is better than the original Game Boy Tetris, Patrick.
Except this one has 4-player multiplayer, dude.
No, I don't play multiplayer, so no, this is the ultimate Tetris.
I would if I had any friends around me that had the 3DS.
Womp womp. No, but I was specifically talking about virtual console stuff. Because I think it's cool they've thrown NES up there, but I know the 3DS is powerful enough to handle, Super Nintendo and Game Boy Advance, and I want all of that on the eShop. I want it to cross over between the Wii U also. So, if Earthbound comes out for the Wii U, I want it eventually for the 3DS, because I want to play that game, but I'm probably not buying a Wii U.
Me too.
So, stuff like that. I really want them to really blow this out and come out with a bunch of stuff. So now I get to be one of those people like Retronauts just complaining every week, at the lack of virtual console releases. But, but other than that, I'm really loving my 3DS. And like I said, it's kind of taken over my world. And, it's the first Nintendo product I've bought in quite some time. And it got me thinking about Nintendo as a company. And, I think that, it got me thinking about them, and I kind of wanted to talk about them on this episode and talk about them in depth, because it's not something that we really broach too often on Nerds Without Pants. And, also Rob really is over Nintendo, so there wasn't much to talk about. And it's also the reason we have Angelo here, because I think between the three of us, we have three different, perspectives on Nintendo. And so I'd like to kind of talk about that. So we're going to take a little break, and then we'll move on to some Nintendo talk. Hello, I'm Julian Titus, and I am a jilted Nintendo lover. I grew up on Nintendo propaganda. I think people probably got a good indication of that, on our 90s episode. I started reading Nintendo Power, pretty much when it was new. And if you read Nintendo Power, you were pretty much brainwashed into loving Nintendo. Because it really was Nintendo propaganda. I mean, it's kind of amazing if you go back and read it. I distinctly remember when the Sony PlayStation deal was going through, this huge, 4-page article in Nintendo Power about how awesome CD-ROM technology was. And then, the rapid backpedaling when the deal didn't, go through, and they decided to stick with the cartridge format. And then they were just bashing CD-ROM technology for the long load times and stuff. Just kind of stuff like that is when the veil started to get lifted from my eyes a little bit. But, no, I mean, I grew up on Nintendo. It's definitely some of my first gaming memories is, original Nintendo stuff, Super Nintendo. Have a great deal of love for this company. I just feel as a gamer, that has kind of grown up and I've moved on to different things. Nintendo hasn't really, moved on with me. And I've just had to accept that, and that's fine. But by and large, I don't get as excited for Nintendo products as I used to. And it's kind of funny because I say I'm a jilted Nintendo lover, but the only Nintendo product that I haven't bought, console-wise is the Virtual Boy and the Wii U. So they've still got me firmly in their pocket. But I kind of wanted to, talk to you guys and see, where you were with Nintendo and kind of where you stand now. Like how you came up with them, but also, how you feel about them today. And I guess, Angelo, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I have a kind of a weird history because I grew up in a city called Amsterdam, New York, which is actually where the Coleco factory was. So my first console that I ever actually put my hands on was a ColecoVision. It didn't last too long. I mean, that whole thing was kind of a flash in the pan, really. But pretty soon, Nintendo started rolling around. And one of the funniest things was it had Donkey Kong on it. But the version of Donkey Kong that was on the ColecoVision, which was licensed, by the way, it was perfectly legit, was better than the one on Nintendo. So there was this whole discussion of, this is garbage system, blah, blah, blah. It was kind of a buzz around there. But eventually, one caught and one didn't. So we ended up getting a Nintendo. And I was hooked from then on out. I mean, the argument is that there were other systems out there that had better hardware. Sega Master System had better hardware. But the library is what won the 8-bit wars, and there was always something for you, it seemed, as far as video games were concerned. I never got tired of playing the games we had. There were always new ones coming in. We didn't have a whole lot of them, but the ones we had, we just played to death. We went from there to a Super Nintendo. We got Game Boys. I had Nintendo Power. The games I didn't have that I wanted, I would follow along on the little maps with my finger in Nintendo Power. Did you say you did that too, Julian, or was that?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I like I said in the 90s episode, it was so long before I got a Nintendo that's how I experienced it, where I would just fantasize about playing it.
If I didn't have the game, that's what I did. And I remember playing a couple of Mega Man games that way before we got them. I was just, I couldn't get enough of it. That was probably, the original Nintendo was probably my most addicting console, I guess. Because you're a kid, it's new, it's exciting. Super Nintendo was great as well. Game Boy was great. I've always had a Nintendo handheld. Now, in almost every iteration, again, I never had a Virtual Boy, but I had a friend who had a Virtual Boy, so I did get to play that quite a bit too. But yeah, around the PlayStation era was when the great divorce happened, I suppose.
Likewise.
I was all set for the Nintendo. Back then it was the Ultra 64. That's what we called it. I still have to shake the habit of calling it the Ultra 64. I have to think.
Well, it was a better name and it was a nicer looking console.
Yeah, but there was some legal thing tied up, so blah, blah, blah. It's Nintendo 64 now. Or they sue you. So I was waiting for that. I bought into the whole thing, despite the fact that I didn't have Nintendo Power. I talked to a bunch of Nintendo fanboys, and we all loved them. And we were waiting for this because we didn't want load times. And then someone's like, hey, you have to play Final Fantasy VII. And I hadn't even heard of it. I don't know where I'd been. But the original Final Fantasy was one of my favorite games. I've got a lot of memories attached to that particular game. I also enjoyed Final Fantasy 4 or 6. I'm sorry. Final Fantasy 3. The numbers get so confused now.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Final Fantasy 3 quite a bit. I didn't own that one, but I did play it. So I was like, what do you mean it's not coming out for Nintendo? Like, oh no, it's on PlayStation. You have to see this. Again, I have no idea how I missed this, but before I knew it, I was sitting in front of a PlayStation with that opening FMV playing, and I was like, I need this yesterday. So that was it. From there, it was Sony PlayStation. The next gen after that, I went with the original Xbox. Oops. And then what?
No, I'm not. I said, oh god, I'm not.
Yeah. It wasn't as bad as people make it out to be, but yeah, I missed out on a lot of great games not having a PlayStation. They had the armory of exclusives that I just didn't get. Some really great games. And then here we are this generation. I have an Xbox 360 and I was gifted a Wii, which I had played the Wii, had kind of thought what I think probably a lot of people thought, that it was kind of gimmicky. But it was fun, and after Wii Sports Resort wore off, and Zelda Twilight Princess, I think, was the other game I played for it, and that was kind of about it. I kind of lost interest in the whole thing. The novelty wore off, and that was the end of it. But I was given that. I picked up Muramasa, the Demon Blade, for it. That was the first pickup I got, and found myself enjoying it quite a bit. Got Mario Galaxy, got another Mario Galaxy game, and then I was just like right back into it. And there's something to be said for Nintendo games. They have a certain quality that I can't 100% put my finger on that not a lot of other games have.
Well, and it's their philosophy, and it's it's the reason why anybody who thinks that the new Zelda game is going to be out for the Wii U before like 2015 is fooling themselves, because Nintendo, they work on it till they get it right. And there's this certain quality that they have for their games, and, to their credit, that's why their games are always so fantastic. So yeah. I can't fault them for that, but, at the same time, I wish that they would put that level of quality and polish into something that I haven't experienced before, instead of just giving me more of what I already love.
Yeah. But I will say that I was fully dedicated on the handheld front, and I still own a lot of handheld games from all the generations, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS. So, I mean, I never really lost anything there, but I just thought, maybe they're not so good at console games. I even saw Metroid Prime and thought, I've played Halo. Which, the two don't compare, but if you just watch somebody play them, that's one of those games you have to play, You have to play Metroid Prime by yourself in a room, and then it sucks you in like no other game does.
Yeah.
So,
and going back to soundtracks, that Metroid Prime is one of those games where every location has its very own distinct theme to it, and as you spend so much time there, you get to know those songs very well. So, and I do miss that. You miss that not owning an actual GameCube, because you don't really get sucked into it. You're over at a friend's house, there's people around. If your people are around, they really want to play a multiplayer game, so you really don't have too much time to get into it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I played it for the GameCube, so, I definitely got that perfect experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that actual quality, I'd call it joy.
Oh, yeah.
They don't feel like it's joyous or like, I don't know, something elating. They won't let it go in the game, except maybe for like Fire Emblem.
Yeah, I think that their whole philosophy is kind of like gameplay first above all else, sometimes at the detriment of all else, like story. They're not very good with story. I don't even think they care about story. They just care about gameplay. And as a result, their gameplay is top notch. It can't be touched. They make the most precise platformers. They make the most immersive environments. Their Zelda games are always, I still, even in the ones that they say, oh yeah, Zelda's repeating itself, I still sit there and scratch my head every once in a while over a puzzle and get that euphoric rush when I solve it. It's still there. It just, yeah, maybe it's somewhat similar to all the other 3D Zeldas, but I still like it, and I still think they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and they've always expanded upon their stories just a little bit each generation with like a little bit more story for Zelda every single time. I think in other franchises that aren't as well known, they do a little bit more story though. Like Fire Emblem, from what you guys have said, sounds pretty good, but most importantly and recently in Kid Icarus Uprising, like it's one of the best stories I've ever played in a video game.
Great characters too.
Yeah. I mean, they don't do it that much, but like it can happen.
Yeah, I'm afraid though, because I don't think Kid Icarus did all that well for a Nintendo game. So I'm wondering if that's just going to like reinforce, their feeling that, oh, well, see, we don't need to spend time on story because, our fans don't want it. When really I feel that maybe the problem with Kid Icarus is that it really should have been on the Wii because it feels like a console game.
Yeah, the stand isn't really my favorite thing.
Yeah, the controls are like the detriment of the game.
Yeah, but I'm probably still going to end up picking it up if I can find it for a decent price because I would really like to play it. And now I have the ability to do so.
It is really fun.
$40 though.
Yeah. But Patrick, how about you? Like where did you start with Nintendo?
Oh yeah, well, Nintendo was my first console. It was the creation and mother of all gaming. Like I was born the same year that the Nintendo was in America, the first year, I think, 1987. I was like born the same year that a lot of their characters were born too, like Zelda and Kirby, like same anniversaries as those people. Their 25th is my 25th, so I kind of feel like tied to it throughout my whole life, even though I'm not really like a Nintendo fanboy. I just happen to like a lot of their games. I mean, maybe I'm a fanboy and don't realize it, but I feel like I don't really have a loyalty to any console because like ever since the beginning, after I got through Nintendo and played all those games, and like I played a ton of those games. Like they were cheap at the point that I was still playing them, and I got like 20 for like a birthday or something because each of them were like $5 or $3 or something like that. And my parents just like found a bin and got them for me. Funny story about that in a second. But like after my NES broke from playing it too much, I just switched to Sega Genesis because I was like, oh, Sonic looks cool. I didn't even think like I had to be loyal to something. And ever since then, I've just been like hopping around, but mostly just between Nintendo and Sony. One Christmas around Christmas time when a friend had come over, I was jumping on my parents' bed with my friend, and all of a sudden my friend looks in the closet and he sees like this long string of games, like it's like a bunch of cartridges, like they weren't in anything at all. And I'm like what is that? And like we're like trying to get it down, and Mom's like downstairs with like the other kid's mom, and they're talking, and we're like, Mom, we found like a bunch of games, we found them. And she's like, I don't think so. I don't know of any games. I'm like, did you guys look in your closets like all the way at the top when we came here? I think they've been here the whole time. So we go back up there and take a coat hanger and undo it and like try to bring it down. Like, and we bring it down and it crashes, and we look at all these games, we're like, awesome. And we're like, Dad, did you not know these were in your closet? And it was like in my dad's closet. He's like, no, I didn't know that. And like years later, I find out that was going to be my Christmas present.
Oh.
So naive, Patrick.
Yeah, but like I thought like I had discovered like this old like amazing loot.
Da 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 da.
But anyway, I began with Nintendo, switched to Sega because I had no loyalty, switched back for N64 just because I was like, oh, I made a mistake, and NES or Super NES was awesome. I really wanted to play Super Mario World, and I would just always go to my friends and play that, or like play Mortal Kombat over there because I couldn't get it yet for Sega Genesis until the end. So I don't know. Eventually, I played a lot of the NES or Super NES games, and I went on, and after that, I've pretty much gotten every Nintendo console just to like not miss like those few games that are going to be the most amazing things of that generation, or like right up there with everything else. Like, you always know the next Mario is going to be great and you got to play it. You always know the next Zelda is going to have like those few moments like you just said, Angelo. Mm-hmm. And I've sort of gotten every console eventually after price drops or something, just because I was like, you know what, it's time to see what this is all about. A lot of people really love it. I'm going to dig it too. The only one I never really bought was Nintendo Advance. I was just like, they're gonna make the next one and it's gonna be backwards compatible. I don't know why I thought that, but like, I think it's cause Game Boy Color came out and you could play all the Game Boy games. So I never really got Advance. I just played like all the Final Fantasies over again and like my Game Boy Color and didn't really need it. So then I found like Virtual Boy for $20 and got that like a couple weeks after it was out and hurt my eyes. And I got the GameCube after it dropped to like $100 or something like that and played Luigi's Mansion in 3 days. And after that, it got every handheld they got ever since. Lost my DS Lite because I think someone took it. It was so good. Then I got a 3DS and was able to play those games again. And I'll keep getting their iterations just because I'm interested in to see what they do next with their franchises. And from like hopeful developer standpoint, like I'd want to see like how they keep things fresh, even though they don't really keep things fresh too much. You know that they're going to put something else out in the same vein, and it's like I just want to keep myself creative and see like where they go to the next level, so I can think for myself like where would I go? Yeah.
Yeah, you brought up a good point, Patrick, about not knowing if you're a Nintendo fanboy or not, and I wouldn't say that you are, but I do feel that part of my break with Nintendo, and part of it is definitely I'm right there with Angelo. Like I think for me, when I found out that Final Fantasy was switching to the PlayStation, that's when I bet on PlayStation, because Final Fantasy had been a really big deal to me already, and I was originally going for the Nintendo 64 when they showed that Final Fantasy VI tech demo, but then when it turned out that was just a demo and then they were moving on to CD-ROM technology, now I was done. I got the 64 later, or I got it when it came out, but that was the first time I had two consoles. But I think for me, part of it is that I have kind of a hatred for like hardcore Nintendo fanboys. Like they really, like I feel that they're kind of the worst when it comes to gamers. Sonic fanboys might be worse. I'm not sure. If Esteban is listening, I'm sorry, dude. But I don't know, like, and I feel this need to kind of like push back against Nintendo because, obviously like a lot of the people who founded Pixelbit are huge Nintendo fans, and I'm not taking anything away from them. It's just, I feel like when I first started at Pixelbit, I felt the need to be the guy who wasn't the Nintendo fanboy, and would call Nintendo out on stuff. But, I've encountered some really over-the-top Nintendo fans who I kind of liken to Alex Jones conspiracy theorists.
Nobody can stop them. They're having their way with America. They want our guns.
Where they feel that, like, the biased gaming media has it in for Nintendo, and, they only report on Nintendo negatively, and they like Sony and Microsoft have them in their pockets. And it's like, get over yourselves. Like, I think that a lot of the people in the games media are just in the same boat that I'm at, where they've moved on and want to have these new experiences, and Nintendo is treading on our nostalgia. And, I'm a big nostalgia guy, and every time that Nintendo trots out something, for example, the Link to the Past sequel for the 3DS they announced at the Nintendo Direct, like, part of me was like, woo! Link to the Past 2! And but then then I came to my senses and I was like, I don't want a sequel to Link to the Past. Like, A Link to the Past is a perfect game. I don't need you to kind of try to go back to that well and not do it as well. So, I don't know, I just, I feel that maybe the Nintendo Uber fandom has kind of distanced me from the company more than the company itself.
Man, as far as Link to the Past goes, that's like one of the few games in the franchise that I haven't beaten.
Oh, I haven't either. The only Zelda games,
Really?
the only Zelda games that I finished are the first Zelda and Link's Awakening on Game Boy.
Wow, really?
The only ones you've beaten?
Yeah, because I invariably get bored of them.
Wow.
Or in the case of Link to the Past, actually I rented it, and I never actually bought it for myself until I worked at Game Fellas, and at that point, it was literally just picking it up to have it in the collection, and I haven't actually played it since I bought it. So.
Yeah, for me, like I had never had an SNES, like I said, but I tried to beat it like a couple of years ago with a friend. And then after we got through the first dungeon, we sort of had a falling out for things I won't say on the air because I'm a nice person.
You know what you do, you
that's
son of a bitch.
Yeah, bastard.
No, I have beaten, oh my gosh, I have beaten almost every, I've beaten the first one on the NES, the second one on the NES. Link to the Past, I've beaten at least twice. Oracle of Seasons, I did not beat Ages. I almost beat Ages. I beat Seasons, Minish Cap, all the ones that weren't the touchy stylus ones. I don't really like those.
Yeah.
I also can't get into Ocarina of Time, no matter how hard I try. I have wanted to beat that game, and then I'll get like a little bit into it, and I'm just like, I just don't like this game. I don't understand.
Ooh, shots fired.
I'm sorry. I don't.
That's my favorite game ever. What?
Don't misunderstand. I get people love it. It's not. And you have your reasons. I'm sure you do. I don't know why I don't like it. Maybe there is something wrong with me, because a lot of people really like this game. But of all the Zelda games, that was one of the only mainstream big one that I haven't beaten and couldn't really get into.
To clarify, did you play it when it was new, or did you go back to it later on?
I played it a little bit when it was new, but most of my experience has been later on.
Because I feel that game, and I might get in trouble for this, but I feel that game in particular has not aged as well as some of the other Zelda games.
What about the 3DS version you gotta play now?
I bought the Zelda 3DS that came with that game, thinking I'm going to do it this time. That was my whole point. Is I'm getting my 3DS and I'm getting only this game, and I'm going to beat it. It didn't happen.
Dude, I'll trade you for my 3DS. I so jumped the gun and bought the launch title 3DS. Like, damn.
No, that's really the only reason I'm not upgrading to an XL is because I love my Zelda 3DS.
Yeah, that's why I'm waiting on the Wii U, like, in addition to the fact that it doesn't really have any games that I want to play. But I know there's going to be like a Zelda version, just like they did for the last two consoles. They're going to do it again. And I'm not going to fail this time.
I do want to go back and finish Skyward Sword. I liked what I played of it. I played probably about 7 hours of it. I do want to finish it. That's the Zelda that's interested me the most since Wind Waker. But the thing with Wind Waker is that I got bored with that particular Zelda game faster than any other Zelda game, because I feel that the whole, like, sailing around on the boats
is too much.
It's too much, and there's not enough action, because I love the combat in Wind Waker. I think it's some of the best Zelda combat they had up until Skyward Sword, but there's not enough of it. Like, I would actually get off of my boat just to go kill something, because I was like, I want to fight something. There's not enough stuff to fight.
You have rage problems.
Yeah, actually.
And I mean, I was the same way. I thought it was boring, especially at the end when you have to get all the trident pieces or whatever.
Oh, that's such garbage.
Yeah,
that is an artificial way to elongate the title for like 10 hours.
And it doesn't need it.
Yeah. Well, I feel that all the games kind of tend to do that. I feel like I've heard that Skyward Sword is the same way, that it really pads it out towards the end. And I'm fine. I'm fine with a 10-hour Zelda game. I don't know about you guys. You know, okay, maybe 20. Like, I think that's perfectly good length. I don't need a 45-hour Zelda game.
I thought Skyward Sword was pretty well paced. Maybe not as well as like I thought Ocarina of Time was, but I mean, if you could get through the water temple, but it was
that's a low
for Wind Waker, like the best ending maybe. Like, it is the best final cutscene maybe, except for maybe Skyward Sword. Like, even Ocarina of Time doesn't really have that great of a final scene. The idea behind it is pretty cool, but like, it could be done better. But Wind Waker's looks so good because it's like animated and it's supposed to be animated, not look like fantastical like Ocarina and Skyward Sword is supposed to. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I love the art design for Wind Waker. Like, it was the first time that I felt that Link had any type of personality to his character. Like I still love, and I can picture it perfectly, even though I've only seen it twice, but when he gets launched onto the ship, like with the cannon, like the look on his face as they're counting down is just priceless. And I was like, why can't he be like this all the time? Because I have always and still maintained that Link is one of the most hollow characters in video games, and anybody that says that, oh no, he's such a deep character is just, they're fooling themselves.
But dude, he's supposed to be hollow. He's supposed to be you.
I get that, but there are people who say that he's a deep character, that he has all his personality and this rich backstory, and it's like, that's part of that Alex Jones mentality. It's like, what are you smoking? Like, 9/11 wasn't an inside job.
I'm tired of your crap!
But why does he have to be? Why is that so important? Why can't he just be Link? Why can't he just be something that you can inhabit briefly and just enjoy his world? I mean, that's the point. Why does everything have to have a big dramatic story? Nintendo stays away from that, and I don't mind. I don't think they have to. I don't think every game that's ever made needs a big dramatic story.
Every game that's made doesn't, but I feel that Zelda tries to go to this really epic place, and they do story, but they do it around this character that has no personality, no soul, no voice.
Well, the world has a story, but the characters really kind of almost don't. There's events that happen, but I almost feel like it's the world that's breathing and moving, and they're just parts of the machine more than anything else.
They're cogs.
There you go.
Well, and my thing, and I don't feel that every character needs to have a personality, but if the character is a named character with like a look and you know, a style that's already been designed for me, I want that character to have a personality to go along with it. If Link was a character that I got to make in my image with every game, and then I'd be fine with him just not being a character, because I would be like, well, this is the character that I created, and I'll make my own backstory for him. But since he's already this very distinct, very defined looking character, like, I need more. I just need more. Like, you know, and maybe that's a failing of me, but again, I think that that's my thing with Nintendo, with me and Nintendo, is that I'm looking for games with interesting storylines and interesting characters that I can get behind, and they're not giving me that, and so I've had to move on. I've had to move on to different places to get that. I guess to expand on that, I get enough of that to where I'm not longing for the really awesome game mechanics that Nintendo gives me, because I feel like I'm getting enough of that plus more with all the other games that I've been playing.
Okay.
Drop the mic. I'm out.
See ya.
No, but I'll get into that a little bit more because we're going to do a little fun thing to end the show. But I think before we move on to that, I want to get y'all's opinion, and I think we already know how we feel about the 3DS. I think we're all pretty high on it.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you guys think of the Wii U so far?
Ooh.
I want them to give me a reason to buy that. I really want to own a Wii U. I want an excuse for it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they haven't given me anything. Like, okay, the real reason I got a 3DS originally was because my DS Lite broke. I, for some reason, like, chew through the shoulder buttons on those things. I was on my third one already.
Oh, man.
And this one broke. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's Mario Kart. I played way too much Mario Kart, and I used the shoulder buttons to hold the shell behind me. So, whatever. The whole point is, that was the reason I got a 3DS, because I figured if I'm going to get a new DS anyway, I may as well get the upgrade. Did that, and then just started buying the games for it, and was just kind of along for the ride.
Now, when did you pick up the 3DS? Was it during that really dry period where people were really worried that it was going to be a failure? Or was it after that?
No, it was around the holiday season. Maybe it was. Was everybody saying that doom and gloom and like during the holidays?
Just this past holidays for 2012?
Yeah.
No, by that point, everybody was really bullish on the system again. It was that first year where people were like, holy crap, like, you know, Nintendo really doesn't have anything coming out, and Third parties are pulling out and this is looking really bad. And I do think that the system was too expensive when it launched. I think that Nintendo, saw the craving for the system at E3 2010 when it was unveiled and used that to price the system. But by the time the system got to market, people had cooled on it. And I think it reflected in their adoption of it early on.
No, that's fair. I bought it during this past holiday because that's when they had the Zelda. They probably had it out for a little while before that, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't, I didn't think I was buying into something that was dying, and I definitely missed the ambassador program and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, some of those games still aren't out. Shit.
Yeah, I want a Wii U, but like I said, I'm waiting for something like what they're doing right now with the 3DS. I'm waiting for that to happen with the Wii U, and then I just okay, this is it, let's go.
What do you think would do that for you?
I need more software. I need more games. Nintendo's approach has always been that games sell systems, not specs. They have been proving that time and time again. They proved it with the Wii. That game sold based on the games and based on the entertainment that the system provided, not based on the horsepower behind the system. I think they can do it with the Wii U. I just haven't seen it yet. I need to see a bunch of games that say, you need to have this system because this is the only way you're going to be able to play these games this way. The potential is there. They have the unique control scheme. That separate pad could offer something new and exciting. And in some cases, like with Zombie U, it already has. But Zombie U is one game. And it looks interesting and it looks fun, but it's not something I'd buy a system for. I need a pile of games like Zombie U, like 3 or 4 of them to make me go, okay, this is a train that's moving and this is a train that I want to be on. So let's go get a Wii U, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm the same way. I think it's like, I think I see in terms of like the general, it's difficult to cater to the masses, and because like a lot of them just bought the console a few years ago and a lot of them had just bought this as their first console and they were like, oh, this is going to be around forever and I'm going to be playing this until I die, because a lot of them are old. And then like they stopped making games for it like a few years later, and those people probably didn't realize that they were going to have to save up for another system, and that system wouldn't have that many games on it, and they just thought to themselves, why? I don't know why. There is no why. So I'm just going to stick with what I have. I don't think it was necessary with regard to the hardware, but like just the control would be enough for me if like I did have a reason, just like you said, Angelo, but I'm used to re-upping every 4 or 5 years, and I would do it for Nintendo when the new Zelda comes out. For me, it's not like the genre producing machine like the 3DS is, though. Like they don't have the influx of RPGs like they do, more so than any other console with the 3DS. Like they don't have like the fact that this is more fun with strangers. Like when I bring a 3DS to a convention like C2E2, I got so many puzzle pieces, like so many. I could not keep up with it. I'm so glad was that you, Angelo, who said to bring it?
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's the best thing ever. I got like 100 puzzle pieces or 200.
Yeah, because when Comic-Con was in the city, my wife and I sat in Penn Station and just harvested street passes from people coming and going off the trains that were going to the con.
That seems really creepy for some strange reason.
We were waiting for a train, so it wasn't like we were.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah.
You weren't that 37-year-old man who has a 3DS in his pocket who walks into the GameStop for, Pokemon Day or whatever and just wants to get in and get out and get his street pass.
Does that make me creepy?
No comment.
Dude, when they had the last Pokemon Day in GameStop, or Pokemon Month for like Maractus, or I think it was, I went in and got that. Or maybe it wasn't Maractus, I forget. But it's like the first Pokemon that like changes forms. I haven't used it yet, but I got it.
You're still in your 20s, Patrick. You still have the grace period.
Alright.
See, I have kids that I can take and say it's for them.
There you go. I'm the one who would look like the weirdo. Actually, real quick, I kind of want to talk about that. I despise buying games at stores where you have to go get the clerk to get the game for you. because there's something about it where it's like having to ask the adult to get your game, but then also the awareness that it's not for my kid, it's for me. So it's like, cause I know what I want, and the clerk doesn't know what I'm talking about, so I'm like, oh yeah, I'd like Sura's Wrath over there. It's the one with the really angry looking guy right there. That's what I'd like. And it's just an awkward experience. That's why I like to go buy my games at Best Buy, because I can just grab the game and take it up to the counter.
Yeah, it's great.
Just a little rant. I'm sorry.
Well, plus you get those reward points, and they add up. Like, I'm a silver member right now, guys.
Hell yeah, it's sweet. I'm probably gonna lose my status this year though, but might be buying a PS4, so maybe not.
Oh yeah.
No, but my thoughts on the Wii U, and Patrick, you hit the nail on the head. I think that the problem has been getting people to understand what it is. I follow video games very closely, and when they announced the Wii U, I wasn't sure what it was. Because when they first showed it, they didn't even really show you the box. It was kind of shunted off to the side, and it kind of looked like a Wii anyway. So I was like, oh, is this just an add-on peripheral? Like, what's going on here? And I understand that Nintendo was trying to build a brand a la Apple, with like the iTunes, with the iPhone and iPod and stuff. But I think it may have backfired here, because people aren't really... Well, I say people aren't used to that, but of course we have PlayStation 3 now. But maybe that was the problem, is that instead of calling it Wii U, they should have called it Wii 2. Like, really, is probably what they should have done, so people understood this was a new machine with new stuff, because I don't think a lot of people really get that even today. And that's really hurt them. But I think for me, I'm also with Angelo, I need games. I totally understand the post-launch lull in software, like that's just a thing that happens with systems, but I don't even know what's coming out for the Wii U, like beyond Nintendo, like there's very little third-party stuff coming out. I don't know what's coming from Nintendo this year besides the Wind Waker remake and Pikmin, which got delayed again, and it could very well get delayed again because it's Nintendo. So and even the big stuff, of course we know there's a new Zelda, of course we know a new Mario, new Smash Brothers, but it's like, that stuff that's not gonna help us this year. I'll be very surprised if any of those big games come out this year. Maybe a Mario if they were really cranking on it and like really were like, crap, we need new software, we need to get this out now. But I don't see it happening. I could see, next spring at the earliest. So, I don't know. And, I think you guys are probably eventually gonna get a Wii U. I don't know if I am, even though the thought of playing like new Nintendo games in HD like really excites me, and I'd love to see that, and I'm actually really excited for the prospect of HD remakes of Nintendo 64 and GameCube games and Wii games for that matter. Mm-hmm. But I've learned this generation that owning multiple consoles isn't necessarily all it's cracked up to be, because I own all three systems from the 7th generation. And I would say, like, percentage of gameplay, it's 90% Xbox 360, 8% PlayStation 3, and 2% Wii. So, clearly, that might not be the best thing for me, because I have the ability to buy more games than I can play. And maybe I just need to stick to one console this generation. And if that's the case, it's going to be between the new Xbox and the new PlayStation. Just because, again, that's what I'm looking for in my gaming experiences.
Yeah, I think I'll end up getting a Wii U regardless for the kids, because they still are going to want to play their Wii games. They still play Bloom Blocks all the time. Mm-hmm. That's a really fun game, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, so they have favorite games on that system that they're going to want to keep playing. And I don't know why, but I'm always more comfortable with the kids playing a Nintendo system. Like,
they're Disney.
My neck kind of bristles up. Well, I get a little nervous when my kid's like, hey, can we play the Xbox? And I'm like, oh, geez, what are they going to stumble on? You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. I know more about this system, but for some reason, I'm just more comfortable with them playing a Nintendo console, probably because it's what I grew up with. Probably because maybe I associate it with more with my childhood, and it seems a little more innocent. I don't know.
Well, and I don't know about your kids, but I mean, I know with my boss at Game Fellas, he loved his kids to play on his Nintendo stuff because it was a sturdier console, because they weren't really old enough to handle discs and stuff yet. So he was this is back before they really were using disc, but that way he knew, well, I can just throw on the Nintendo for them and they'll be fine, and then I'll go play my PlayStation. So there might be an element of that, but also I just think that, Nintendo is like the Disney or Pixar of gaming. So you always know you're going to get like a really great experience that's not going to rock the boat. You're not going to have to answer any weird questions to your kids after they play, a Mario game. But you might have to answer some weird questions to your kids if they're playing, some T-rated game on the Xbox that, isn't really bad, but there might be something in there that you're like not prepared to deal with.
Yeah. If I look at my shelf and the games that I have for Xbox 360, almost all of them are rated teen or higher. And if I look at my Wii shelf, they're mostly E and E10.
Right.
So that's probably got a lot to do with it. Well, I could just say, yeah, go play the Wii. I know they're not going to grab a game that I'm going to be like, turn that one off. So.
Me and Patrick don't have to worry about that, though.
No. Someday.
Making those wonderful ginger babies.
Oh. Well, whenever Felicia Day calls.
Stay away from her. I do think, and maybe I want to ask you guys real quick, there's a lot of doom and gloom about the Wii U. Like, there's a lot of people saying that Nintendo is done if this doesn't become a success. I think that's silly talk. I think that people have counted out Nintendo multiple times over the years, and it's never, they're still around. I think if things don't turn around in the next 12 months, that the Wii U is going to end up as a GameCube as opposed to a Nintendo 64, just as far as market penetration and sales and stuff like that. But the GameCube was still, profitable for them, so I don't think that they have to worry. But what do you guys think about that as far, people are talking about them, like, possibly getting out of the console business after this, and I just don't see that.
No,
I don't
I
think
see that happening, and I actually think like it's not going to be as bad as the GameCube. I don't know why, but it's like I'm sticking to the E3 mantra that so many of the developers were talking about, like Irrational and everybody saying like, "Oh, this is going to be great. We're giving like our full support to it." I know they haven't said like what games yet, but like I don't know why they all lined up to say they support it without like actually thinking we're going to do this for a few years and it's going to be good. Like, it'll happen. They're just making something behind the scenes right now, I think.
I hope so. They need to start announcing some stuff, and E3 is definitely the time to do it. It's interesting to me that Nintendo's not going to do a normal E3 press conference.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read the story. Angela, you might have. Are they not going to be at the show at all? Or are
no, they're
going
to have games on the floor.
Okay, they're just not doing the conference.
Right.
Okay. And, and whatever. I honestly do think, I'm one of those people who thinks that their multiple Nintendo Directs throughout the year are probably more effective than the big E3 presser, but at the same time, it's E3. So I kind of want them to come with the really big E3 conference because that's what I want. That's what I expect from E3.
I like those little mix-ups they're giving me. They juggle me in the air, kind of like in Tekken or something like that. And I feel like it's a nice change of pace from like the big one-shot Hadouken or something.
Yeah, and it worked on me. Like, it was that Nintendo Direct and seeing people freak out on Twitter. You know what was one of the things that put it over the top for me? Was Esteban tweeting that, apparently, and not a lot of people reported on this, but Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons is going to be added to the Virtual Console for the 3DS.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that, I was like, wow. I had totally forgotten about the possibility of playing like old Game Boy games on that sucker. So it was a multitude of things, but that was kind of the thing that pushed me over the edge of all things. I'm
Great.
so weird. Mr. I don't like Zelda, but I'm like, ooh, Zelda.
So are you going to get Animal Crossing when it comes out? It's real close.
No, I don't do Animal Crossing. I never got into it.
I never have, but I want to do it this time.
Honestly, I think the next game for the 3DS that I'll be getting, I'm going to try to hunt down a copy of Luigi's Mansion tomorrow to take advantage of that free digital download, promotion that they're doing. But, if that doesn't work, then it'll probably be the, Project Cross Zone, which is the strategy RPG with, all the characters from Capcom, Namco Bandai, and Sega. but I'm really excited to play that. And I just realized, literally as we were recording this, that I now have the ability to do so. So that game looks really cool. And Fire Emblem has reawakened my love for strategy RPGs.
So is the difficulty really difficult on that game? Because like I got turned off kind of by the one that came out for the Virtual Console that was like for ambassadors or whatever.
I don't think it's all that difficult so far. I think that you have to be more strategic in where you place your characters, because if they get swarmed by 2 or 3 enemies, they can die very easily. But if you position them to where you end your turn and you're like, okay, I've got this weak character, but he's surrounded on 2 flanks by other characters. Not only does that increase the chances of enemies attacking those other characters instead, but if they attack him, he's going to get support from those other units, which can make that makes or breaks a lot of the battles. And I think where people are having problems with Fire Emblem is that they're not doing that. They're kind of letting their characters charge off on their own. Where the way that I'm playing it is literally like I have certain characters that I'm like, you are not getting further than 1 tile away from this character. You're buddies. You're always together. And that's how I've been playing it. And it's worked for me pretty well. I have lost characters, but pretty much I'm moving on with my game unless I lose someone that's core to my strategy. Like before we started recording, I lost Sumia, my Pegasus Knight, who's one of the main characters, and I was like, nope, I can't take that loss.
I was gonna say,
she's too important. So I reloaded.
Don't let that one count.
Yeah. So I've probably got about 4 characters that if I lose them, I'm resetting, but otherwise I'm kind of taking it as it comes. And I've lost probably about 7 or 8 characters so far, but you get new ones at a pretty rapid clip, so I don't think that there's really a danger, unless you're just playing really bad. I don't think there's really a danger of like getting to the end of the game with like only the 2 main characters. I think you'll be fine. So I can't recommend it enough. Actually, I'm not sure who's playing it for review at Pixelbit, but I think I'm going to try to do something a little different with this one. I'd like to get like a kind of a round robin discussion with everybody that's playing it, just to kind of talk about strategies and impressions and kind of do that type of review, like an old school EGM review with multiple people.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's gonna kind of wrap it up for how we feel about Nintendo. Before we leave, I wanted us to put on our thinking caps.
Oh, thank God. I'm so
excited for excited for this too.
No, I wasn't gonna go out without this. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take the big 3 Nintendo franchises, Mario, Zelda, and Metroid. Although really Metroid, in the scheme of things, is probably not one of the big 3, because outside of the US, people don't care. But we care. And, so yes, I want all of us to, basically what I told everybody is, I want you to come up with a new version of each of these games. So we'll start with Mario. We'll just go around the room for each game. So Patrick, I want to hear your Mario.
Mario in a Metroid suit. I have a gimmick that I think where each of the major franchises should, trade places with another major franchise. It could be like a series of games under like one moniker or something like that. Like, I mean, not exactly like this, but like Mario is missing in Metroid or something like that. And you could do that for Samus too, but I'll get there. Anyway.
So, I mean, would the mechanics change? Like, would Mario be jumping on, like Kree and Spinies and stuff like that?
It'd be like a total faceplant into the other franchise. So it would kind of be just like changing the character, but like there would be some other aspects that would come with it. Like he would have his kind of power-ups instead of Samus's kind of power-ups, but it would like be in a mech suit.
Kind of coming around on this idea. It's another one of those like Patrick ideas where when he says it, I'm like, what the hell? Like that's insane, but I can kind of see it. I think it would have to be like a downloadable game. I don't think I don't think that screams full retail to me.
They couldn't like make it a whole game, because if it was like a complete experience for like 30 hours and something new, people would be like, this was just too much for me. Like, but maybe just like a small like $5 game, that would be sweet.
Yeah.
Like something like if it was like Super Metroid, but instead it was like Mario in it, like sort of like a Castlevania style game, that would be sweet.
I kind of see that. Like they do some of those fan-made mashup games, and those are always a lot of fun to play.
Yeah.
Okay. Angelo, what have you got for me? New Mario.
Similar to Patrick's idea, although I haven't really fleshed this one out as much because I don't know what I want to do exactly. A lot of people, I think, forgot that Mario's roots are in the arcade. His first two games, well, his first several games really, were the Donkey Kong games and Mario Brothers, not Super Mario Brothers, but just plain Mario Brothers, which were single screen arcade games. I don't necessarily say I want him to go back to single screen, but I want Mario games, maybe little downloadable ones, that have more of that arcade callback, that feel kind of coin op to an extent. Just fun bursts. The only problem is I don't know exactly how. But I know I just want to see something that takes me back to that, because I do have memories of Donkey Kong, and I do have memories of not really Mario Brothers, but when we played Mario Brothers 3, my brother and I used to just do that challenge thing for hours where we would just compete in that version of the original Mario Brothers that was in Super Mario Brothers 3. So
yeah,
that is actually
I still like Mario and those like almost one screen games where it's like the minis march again or something like that. It's like sort of one screen. It's like pseudo one screen because you can like tap left or tap right to see the other half of the screen. But like, I think they should go back to something like you said, like that, Angelo. That'd be great, because especially now you could add like nationwide leaderboards and like worldwide leaderboards, and like people will get so competitive about Mario.
Now, what if they did more, and I don't know if they can add to Nintendo Land, but what if they just did another Mario one that was, think the same spirit of the Donkey Kong one, where it's just a simple game, you know, but that you can try over and over again to get better at, to get a high score, yeah. If
they could somehow do the Pac-Man Championship Edition DX-ification of either the original Mario Brothers or Donkey Kong, that could be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually one of the games I was playing the past 2 weeks, that and Galaga DX.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were playing a little Pac-Man DX last night as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm the one who went big on my Mario game. I've been thinking about this for years, but I actually want to take things back to it being Super Mario Brothers. I've always loved the idea of Mario and Luigi being different people. And I know they've kind of gone into this more with like the portable RPG games, but you know, I love Luigi's personality in his games, where you get the impression that he doesn't want to be there. He's not the adventuring type. He kind of just goes along with his stuff because his older brother, you know, is kind of calling the shots and everything. And I want to tap into the whole sibling rivalry thing, because Mario and Luigi, there's no way they get along all the time. Like, they get into arguments, they get into fights. I'm sure of it. They're hot-blooded Italians. Like, I'm sure that they've got some issues. So I want, you know, a 3D action adventure game, you know, like you expect from Mario. I want to fire Charles Martinet as the voice of Mario and Luigi. I want to get two distinct voice actors, and I want to put a little bit of a story. Now, before we go off the deep end, you know, you Alex Jones Nintendoites.
We're gonna find the gay porn.
Like, I just want the amount of story in my Mario game that the Ratchet and Clank series has. Real quick, real funny segments that kind of punch up the levels, kind of playing on the fact that Mario and Luigi aren't really getting along too well, but at the same time they're brothers and they love each other. I want to do drop in, drop out co-op, where if you're playing by yourself, you're just playing alone, but then if you need to like do something that requires Luigi, he just kind of pops in, does his thing, and then leaves. But again, if you want to play two players, you can totally do that. but I see this game where you're doing like really crazy team up attacks and maybe some special power ups that you can only do when you're together. And again, just bringing a lot of character and personality to it. And I don't think that you can get that with the way that Mario and Luigi talk now, because their voices will grate on your nerves if you hear them talk for more than 2 sentences. So, and actually, honestly, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Nintendo R&D1, or whoever it is that works on the Mario series, but I actually wouldn't mind seeing Insomniac work on this game. I would.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I would like to see somebody new take it on, and also new designs for the characters. I'd like to see like maybe the Pixar artists take a stab at the characters. I'm kind of done with the Mario and Luigi look that they've been using that look since, Mario 2. So I'm ready for an update. So,
just don't go extreme, please.
Yeah, not extreme. I mean, I would still put them, in coveralls and have the hats, but I would make them look maybe a little more worn, maybe have them with like a tool belt and maybe have that actually factor into the gameplay. I kind of like the idea of Mario having a plumber butt once in a while. Like, I don't know. Like, I think they could play with it and have it be a lot of fun. But
play
also,
with it, what?
The plumber crack.
Play with his plumber, what?
No, I don't want to play with his plumber crack.
Oh.
I just think that it'd be fun to have some fun in the fact that he's a plumber. Like, they've kind of forgotten about that.
It'd be kind of fun to see his crack every once in a while.
Yeah, make a joke out of it. I gotcha.
And, maybe, I don't know, maybe make it to where the princess doesn't get captured this time. Maybe she can be part of the adventure again, because, like, I'm kind of tired of her, and they've really made her a total airhead since Mario Sunshine. Like, she's really bad. She's so bad. I'm your mommy? Get away. Just get away.
She was really awesome in Mario 2. Like, I used her quite a bit because of her floaty jump. That was
She's the best.
I only used Luigi for like one level in Mario 2. It was all the princess.
So, like, I think that they should take your idea about that and then fly with it and watch the SNL skit, the classic one with Dan Aykroyd, where he's got plumber's crack and he doesn't realize it.
Yeah, they could do something like that. I would like to see it have like a little bit more mature humor. Not super mature, but I'm saying, along the lines of like a Pixar movie where you've got some stuff for grown-ups and then some stuff for the kids.
It'd be awesome if you're like if you start like walking around in like an actual person's room, like you got called in to fix some plumbing there, and like you got to walk around and find the area in the actual person's house where there's like a leak or something. Then you look inside the hole or wherever it is, or like the plumbing crack. Well, not the crack, but the pipe, and it turns into this whole world or something like that inside of it.
I wouldn't be against a Mario game where Mario and Luigi end up back in New York City for a little bit, and they're like, oh man, like, this place has changed. I want to go home. I want to go back to the Mushroom Kingdom. So maybe you could do like a half and half type of game.
You could also play with his heritage a little. I mean, there was Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, that's true.
You go that route.
Yeah. Maybe, maybe a quick montage where they try to get regular jobs, like, back in the real world, and you see, like, Mario trying to be a referee for a hot second.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, even if, like, the real world looks more like the Mushroom Kingdom than our real world, like, but, like, some kind of, like, we don't know where they really come from anymore. They're the Mushroom Kingdom,
Yeah, well, and I definitely do want to see some more Mushroom Kingdom action. I like the idea of this real surreal world where there's blocks that float in midair and stuff like that. Like, I definitely want to see that, in fully 3D, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but, because Mario 64 took place inside the paintings, so that technically wasn't the Mushroom Kingdom, and then Mario Sunshine was Isle Delfino, and then the Galaxy games were just all over the place. So we haven't really had a dedicated, like, Mushroom Kingdom adventure in years, right? Or am I missing something?
Mario World was Dinosaur Land.
Yeah.
Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah. So I'd like to go back to the Mushroom Kingdom. Okay, so we'll move on to like a more minor one, because we'll end big. But what would you guys do for Metroid? Patrick.
Where are my notes? So for Metroid, Samus, I like staying with the gimmick. I want to see her dressed as a plumber because that's sexy.
Okay, just like breast size, I think that we have a different definition of sexy, Patrick.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I'm just saying the overalls would be a nice getup for her, and she could learn a lot from working like that.
You're saying that the baddest ass bounty hunter in the galaxy needs to learn a better trade? Something that brings in better money.
I'm saying, like, she should come back down to earth, you know? Like, literally. But like, this kind of gimmick, you know, where each major franchise trades place, it's not like it would be awesome. It would totally work in every aspect. Like, you could have Fox in an RPG. Wait.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well.
You could have Zelda in a 2D side-scroller.
Wait.
They did that.
Yeah.
Not very well.
I actually like the idea of Samus showing up in Hyrule. I think that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kidding about those last two. I'm just saying this probably actually wouldn't work, but I think it would be great to have some kind of a gimmick like this fleshed out and a new type of series for each one.
Yeah, I dig it. Angelo, how about you?
I would like to see a game where there's always a bit of anxiety in Metroid games. There's always that fear of the unknown. And the other thing that always happens, she always starts off and loses her powers and has to get them all again. I want to get away from the one thing, and I want to amp up the other one. Instead of it being a game where she ends as a fully powered up badass, I want her to start fully powered up. And over the course of the game, some sort of corruption removes her enhancements one at a time. So that by the time she's done, she's like in the most basic armor she has and like just, you know, like fully reduced. Like getting around the map becomes harder and harder and more of an ordeal because you're losing your ability to move around fast and you're forced to play, you know, more defensively and you have to be more creative. And I don't know if maybe your shot gets weaker or anything like that. I don't know how far I want to really take it. Because again, these aren't fully fleshed out ideas here, but I just think it would be terrifying that as the game went on, it got harder and harder instead of easier and easier. And I think it would kind of crank the tension up.
That's brilliant.
I don't
know. Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
That's how I would have wanted Metroid Prime 2 to be that way. And I thought that it was going to be like that. And then I like played it and I was like 10 minutes in. Why did I just lose everything I got in the first game?
Yeah.
For a second, Angelo, I was getting very nervous because I thought you were going to tread on my territory, but we're actually going in opposite directions, so I dig it.
Okay, cool.
I still, and I've been fantasizing about this for years, long before Metroid Prime, but I have wanted a really awesome 3D third-person Metroid game since, like, the mid-90s. I don't know if anybody remembers Burning Rangers for the Sega Saturn, but that game played in the way that I felt that a Metroid game should play, because you had this really cool boost jumping, and you could really, like, you were very mobile and very quick. Because I really love the platforming in the older Metroid games. And they have that in the Metroid Prime series. But obviously you can't do stuff like the screw attack. Because it's just, I mean, if you did that in first person, you'd throw up. But, so I want to see it in third person. I would actually go a different way with the progression. I've had this idea for many years, but Samus gets shot down, has this emergency landing. She didn't have her suit on at the time. So when she emerges from the crash, she's got her Zero suit, her high jump boots, and a sidearm. And that's all she's got. And throughout the course of the game, she does come across a new set of armor, but instead of it being, like, I would totally redesign her armor, and it wouldn't necessarily be the Chozo that give it to her this time around, but it would be a suit of adaptable armor that as she gets the pieces to it, and she'd get it piecemeal, it wouldn't be like an entire suit. But once she got the full thing assembled, by upgrading it, she would actually be able to completely change the dynamics and shape and abilities of the armor. So, for example, she could go into like a super armor mode where she's moving really slowly, but she can take a lot of damage. There'd be like the opposite of that, but there's also be versions where she can survive certain types of elements or, jump higher, or even, I actually even kind of like the idea of being able to fly for short periods of time. Because I still haven't seen like a 3D game do like, I want basically like an Iron Man experience, and I haven't seen that in a video game yet, and I would like to. So I wouldn't mind seeing some of that in there. But going along with Angelo's thing, I would have her talk because I love the idea of Samus being a fully fleshed out character, but I would make her a very strong character, not the wuss that she was in Other M. And there wouldn't be a lot of reason for her to talk because it's not like there'd be people talking to her on the radio all the time. There would be an antagonist and other people that she's fighting that would talk to her. But for the most part, she'd be on her own, and you might hear her mutter to herself or stuff like that. But usually you would get that sense of just being alone in a hostile environment and scared out of your wits because you're depowered and things are creepy. And I would definitely try to hit that Super Metroid vibe of just delving deep into the depths of this world, and the further you get into it, like, the more foreboding it becomes. So.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been thinking about that one for years.
I like it.
So, we'll end it on the big one. The Legend of Zelda. Patrick, I'm sure you've thought many a night about your perfect Zelda game and what you would like to see done to it.
Yeah, well, first I'm going to throw a little curveball and say I want to see Ice Climbers RTS set in Antarctica. Guest starring Ozymandias, who has his... Yeah. He's Ozymandias from Watchmen. He has his, his fortress in Antarctica. No?
No.
Well, I want to see it. I would play. It would be like a style kind of like Pixel Junk Monsters. Anyway.
Nobody wants Ice Climbers back, Patrick.
Ice Climbers RTS. You heard it here first. There's 2 of them. There's 2 people you could play against. Civil War. Anyway.
Okay.
I just thought of this Zelda on the fly because I didn't really pick, I was at first going to say, I don't want to touch Zelda and they can do it and I just want to be the hero, because I just cosplayed as Link and everything. I'm not supposed to think about the worlds I'm supposed to be in. But I was thinking here, I'm I should think of a real answer. And I think that the best way to expand upon the different mythologies that they've created would be to go back to the point where they both got severed and go back to just after the Ocarina of Time, where the hero of time has fractured into 2 different histories, and flesh out the aspect of time a little bit more, because it's something that's in the back end of a lot of the different stories, and they don't really talk about it too much except in Majora's Mask, which is one of the 2 ways that Ocarina of Time goes. And that's the only one where time is a necessity. But I would want this one to be a metaphorical Zelda that would take place entirely on a clock. And each of the 12 levels would be anthropomorphized versions of each of the numbers around a clock. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, and whatever you think that each of those numbers represents would be the kind of enemy that he's working against. So he's ultimately facing against time, and it wouldn't probably bring in Ganondorf at all. I mean, maybe during number 6 or something like that, because 666 and yeah. But once you get to 12, I think it would you would have it fracture, and that's when it would go into the Majora's Mask side of it, and you'd have to play through it again a second time, to go through the hero's route or whatever, where everything wasn't discombobulated and everything supposedly happened the right way. And so then there would be opposite versions of each level, where everything that you thought was bad in 1 through 12 would be good as you go through it, and it would kind of be an Okami, kind of bringing life back into the land kind of game for the second half of it. So it would kind of be split into 2. Does that make any sense?
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be playing any different than the other Zeldas. It would just be a different kind of plot and a different kind of setting than we're used to.
With the clock setting, it actually reminds me a little bit of Mario 64, where you're kind of going into these worlds within a world.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't think they've really done that in Zelda, other than like maybe the Dark World type of thing.
Yeah, and I was thinking that's how like the second half of it would be. There would be the Dark World, or like in this case, it would be the Hero World or something like that.
Yeah.
And I would call it The Legend of Zelda: The Hero of Time.
Nice. I think Doctor Who might have something to say about that, but yeah, I dig that. Angelo?
I cannot possibly be the first person that has had this idea, but I always kind of felt like Hyrule was a little bit too small. I'm mostly thinking of the Super Nintendo game and the Ocarina of Time and the other ones. Like, it always just felt like you're dealing with one kind of small area. Like, there's one town of whatevers, and I want a whole world of The Legend of Zelda where Hyrule is just like an area of it. I kind of want Zelda Skyrim, if that makes sense. I know this sounds like a bit much, or maybe it's a little bit more, like a little ridiculous, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to say this, but one of the biggest problems with the Elder Scrolls games is really the combat.
Oh yeah.
So, if you take the precision of Zelda-style combat, which is a little more arcadey than RPG, I suppose, but if you make it where the world is fully fleshed out, the way it is in Skyrim, and I'm not saying I want Skyrim, but I want that influence on the franchise. I want there to be places where you can just explore and go mow down enemies and find, I don't know, random treasure and stuff. It doesn't always have to be a full heart container or something epic. You know, it can be little things too, just like it is in those games. I also don't want it to turn into a loot game, kind of like the Elder Scrolls games kind of are. I want it to still have that tight structure as far as, you know, these are places you can go. You know, you have to go to this level next, and then you have to, well, not even that. Like, you have dungeons, but you have the choice of how you want to go from one to the other, which order you want to do them in, where do you go first. I don't know. I just want it to feel, I want that sense of exploration and adventure that I get from an Elder Scrolls games, but I don't want the sloppy combat. I want the Zelda combat, and I want the Zelda types of weapons and level building and things like that. I don't necessarily want this to be an RPG.
Interesting. I think you and I are on the same track, but I'm probably going a little further than you are.
Go for it.
Now, I don't want to fix what isn't broken with the Zelda games.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to change the way that the puzzle dungeons go or the really amazing boss battles. I think that that's core to the Zelda series, and it's always been wonderful. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I would put more RPG elements into the game, because as much as I like the combat in Zelda, you get to this point where once you get like your items and all your rupees and stuff like that, there's not really a lot of reason to fight anymore other than having to clear out a room to open up a door. And I would like there to be more incentive to engage in combat. So I would actually like to see, you know, an experience system where you're gaining strength and possibly abilities, and maybe tweak the heart container system a little bit. I don't know how that would change. Like, maybe when you level up, you get like, you know, a piece of a heart container, you know, type of thing, and in addition to the ones that you can find in the world. I would totally redesign Link. I mean, keeping true to his original design, but updating it for modern times. I like the idea of him actually getting new pieces of armor and stuff like that throughout the game. But to avoid the loot thing that you're talking about, Angelo, I think each set of armor would be very specific, and it would be highly designed, just like Link already is. So the artist who is behind, you know, the Zelda designs, you know, would just have to like come up with some really interesting armor that would complement Link without, you know, detracting from his original design. I would also, you know, give him a voice. I know, shocking. I would, you know, I would let him be more of a character, but at the same time, I'm not gonna like ram it down people's throats. I'm not asking for dialogue trees or a lot of like good versus evil choices. Like, you know, he's still gonna be the hero of Hyrule. You know, you're not gonna change that. I just want, when Zelda talks to him, I want him to be able to talk back. Like, I don't think that's too much to ask for. But my big thing, and this is the thing that kind of excites me the most, the idea of the underworld being completely connected. So let's say you've got 8 dungeons like you do in a lot of Zelda games. They would actually be 8 sections of an entire area. And depending on what tools you get and stuff like that, you would be able to break into, from like dungeon 3 to dungeon 7 or something like that. And it would kind of be this huge overall puzzle that you have to solve, but you chip away at it in different ways, and you would be able to explore it as you will, but of course you're not going to be able to get too far in certain areas without the right abilities and the right items. So it'll be this thing where it's like, you'll kind of, and again, the Wii U would be great for this because you'd kind of take notes like, okay, this section of, dungeon 4, I can't do anything right now, but I'm going to put a little note because I know that if I come back here with this item, I can get further. And I think that'd be a really cool thing to where like the underworld and the overworld are connected, but also the underworld itself is just this one massive labyrinth that's segmented into smaller areas.
I like the underworld idea a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think most Zelda fans, like my other ideas, they're yelling into their listening devices right now. But, I mean, let's try something new, people. Like, we've had your Zelda experience ad nauseum for many, many, many years. So let's just, let's have another Zelda 2 that really, like, plays with the system. It might not be the best in the series, but it'll be different.
I do not ever want a voice.
See, you're part of the problem.
Yeah. I think really, like, we are kind of on the same track. It's just that you want to go with the RPG elements, like embrace them wholesale. And I'm like, no, I want to keep with the action RPG style stuff, but I want to feel like there's a bigger world than just the village and the dungeon and the place where all the rolling rock people live. You know what I mean? Like, I want there to be more to the world than just that. I want there to be pointless things for me to explore and look into that just flesh out the world that much more.
Oh, me too. And I'm not saying that I want, like, I don't want, like, ability points that I'm putting into different stats. Like, what I'm saying is that, I want to feel that Link is getting stronger as I'm progressing through the game. And maybe that ties into certain items and weapons that I can equip at certain points in the game. And I think combat-wise, as great as the Zelda combat is, and Angelo, you were right, it's a little more arcade style, I would love to see them adopt a page from, like, the Dark Souls, Demon Souls, realm of gameplay. Like, can you imagine fighting a Zelda boss, but having it play where left trigger brings up your shield, right trigger swings your weapon, and it's like a very, like, methodical pace, but at the same time you're also dodging around the way that Link does. I think that'd be amazing.
That absolutely could be. Yeah, I like that quite a bit.
Yeah. So, that's what... Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
I just wanted to be the other side of the argument because, like, I mean, I like the idea of making the Zelda game bigger and more expansive, but the reason that I think they're doing it and keeping it, like, small as it is because it's, like, what I preached about the purity before, and just, like, keeping, like, that one town makes it, like, a pure idea of a town, and, like, that's, like, the one thing that you need to, like, or the one idea that you would think of, like, where a place you would live, where, like, the capital would be. And then there are, like, these outlying versions of, like, or, like, a village that you think of, and that's pure too. But if you had so many big capitals, then it sort of, like, dilutes the idea of, like, the center or something like that. And that's something they don't want to get away from, probably. And only in that game, I might be a little hesitant to it because it's, like, for me, it, like, puts me in this time where we weren't, like, so caught up in globalization. It was more about, like, a small town and, like, where you would live. And it reminds me of something like the early part of the 20th century or the 19th century even. Like, it makes me feel like I'm in the land of time gone by. I don't know.
Well, but I don't think that either of us are saying that we want it to be, like, this huge place for the sake of it being huge. I think that you can still do a handful of villages and, like, the kingdom, but let's make it to where, you start out in this really tiny village, and then by the time you finally get to, Hyrule Kingdom, it's this massive city that, little old Link is, like, just completely dumbfounded by. I think about like, they do this in Lord of the Rings, but I read Wheel of Time first, but, you know, in the first Wheel of Time book, they're just, you know, the three main characters are farm boys from this tiny little village that nobody's heard of. And when they make it to, I think, Caemlyn, like one of the first major cities, literally they don't know what to do with themselves. They've never seen so many people in their lives. They don't know where to stand because there's carts running everywhere. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know, like, where to spend their money or how to get money. Like it's this huge culture shock type of thing. And I think it'd be amazing to see that through the eyes of Link, where, you know, he starts off as this little nobody elf on the wrong side of the world, and then he ends up being the savior of Hyrule, you know, by the end of the game. And it's just like this really huge hero's journey. And you see it reflected not only in the gameplay and level progression, but also, you know, in the world that you've, explored. You know, when you look back at the end of the game, you're like, wow, I started out here and I ended up here. That's amazing.
Yeah, I feel that way for even Ico though. Like, just I started out at the bottom, and now that I'm all the way at the top of the castle, like that's where I used to be. But that's just one big castle. Like, if they made Hyrule feel that big and it was just one place, I'd still be down.
Yeah, I think that's more of what we're saying.
Yeah,
you know, not necessarily having like Hyrule Kingdom and then like 4 other massive kingdoms, and then, you know, 10 other villages for each of those kingdoms. Like that's going just crazy town.
Yeah, that's how I picture Elder Scrolls, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Nintendo would never make a game like Skyrim. First of all,
I wouldn't trust them to do so.
But no, they make very tight, efficient, well orchestrated experiences, which is not what Skyrim is. Also, they don't ship broken games. I mean, Skyrim is a buggy mess, depending on what platform you're playing on. I hear the PlayStation version is downright unplayable. So, I mean, Nintendo would not let that fly.
Yeah, but just imagine for a second, like a game, let's say a game half the size of Skyrim, but with Nintendo polish and mechanics.
It would take them so long to make that game.
But it would be so worth the wait.
It would. It would be amazing.
And I hope that this podcast was worth the wait, listeners. I think that's going to do it. Hopefully you enjoyed our takes on big Nintendo franchises. I'd like to hear your opinions and what you would do with the big 3 or some of the other ones. I mean, they got plenty of other franchises to choose from. But I think that's going to do it for us this week. Before we take off, Angelo, I think you'd kind of probably want to let people know what you've been up to real quick on the site.
Oh, well, aside from that article that I mentioned, I also host Backloggers Anonymous, which is where we go through and play games that we have backlogged and that other people have backlogged, just as a way to encourage us to go through and play these games that may be left behind. What we're doing right now is we're playing through System Shock 2, which has been revealing. Is probably the best way to put it. I'm enjoying it, but I'm also thinking, yep, I can see why we moved on from this, but I'll save that for the podcast. The real interesting thing is we did a poll on the website, and the next game we're going to do is Mirror's Edge, based on the results of that poll. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I had a lot of fun with that game when I played it the first time. That's what I'm up to.
Definitely. I have a review in the works that should hopefully be up a couple days after this episode goes up. And also, I just did an editorial recently called Wrongful Snake, the problem with yet another Metal Gear prequel, which I'm really proud of. I'm glad that, like, the regular Pixel Bit readers kind of got what I was going for. I think that a lot of other people around the web didn't kind of get the gist of what I was talking about, but they also cast aspersions that I'm not a Metal Gear fan, which screw you. I'm a total huge Metal Gear fan. But go check it out. It's kind of spun out of something that I talked about here on the show about who I think should be the next hero of the series. And again, kind of going into, like, I like to mix things up. I don't want to have the same experience with, like, every single time with my games. I think, you know, after you get 2 or 3 games into a series, it's time to really shake things up. And that's what I would want to do with, the Metal Gear series. And I think doing another big boss game is not the way to go. So go check that out. Comment on it. Please let me know what you think. Patrick, you have anything in the works?
Yeah, I mean, I've started a few different things, but I'm not sure what's going to come out because I'm pretty ADHD, and I might have a feature out by then, but we'll see about that. I want to keep it simple and just not announce anything, so I'm not held to anything.
Fair enough.
All right.
You can also find us on Twitter. Angelo?
Oh, I am Pixel AJ, spelled in that weird pixel bit way of PIXL AJ.
Patrick?
I'm at some boss.
And you can find me at Julian_Titus. That's going to do it for this episode of Nerds Without Pants. Definitely check out our other podcasts on the site, PB and Jason, Push Start to Continue, and of course, Backloggers Anonymous. We'll see you again in 2 weeks with some other random shenanigans and bollocks. But until then, thanks for listening, and keep it pantsless, Internet. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
We're going to find the gay porn.